right, Krueg Show on a Monday, and you know what that means? Every Monday at 1 o'clock, the great Raj in the house from RSF 49ers, and what a day. What a day. Joe Muzzy says, Larry, you lazy, you lazy. Oh man, I drove 13 hours back from Scottsdale. Of course, the Pig and a Pickle Krueg Show brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out, best barbecue in the Bay Area. Corte Madera, they're in Emeryville. We'll talk more about Pig and a Pickle in a bit. But we just got back from Scottsdale, courtesy of the New York Style Sausage Company, and that's why you see their moniker on the bottom of the screen. But we are back, made the 13-hour drive. I drove yesterday because I looked at the schedule and I said, you know what? I don't want to drive on Monday because Monday is going to be NFL free agent bonanza day. It's a bonanza. But we all weren't really sure where the 49ers would fit into the overall bonanza. And sure enough, wow, Javon Hargrave is now a 49er. The Niners have made the biggest splash maybe of anybody today on day one of free agency. They agree to a 4-year contract with Javon Hargrave, the Philadelphia Eagles defensive tackle, $84 million on a 4-year deal, $40 million guaranteed, over $20 million annually for the 30-year-old Hargrave. I love the move. Raj, weigh in. Give me your thought. What do you like? What's your thought on it?
I'm still like having chills, goosebumps. Like I'm so excited about this move. So you're right. Bonanza is probably one word to describe it. This was a phenomenal splash on the first day of free agency, the legal tampering period. I was supposed to go out of town this weekend. I changed my plans, and I am so glad I didn't, because I would have been driving back during this crazy, crazy day. And the 49ers, John Lynch, this front office, makes a splash that nobody anticipated. Javon Hargrave, you add a premier defensive tackle to the number one defense. The only way to make your defense better is to go get an elite player like this. And now you got Nick Bosa coming off of Defensive Player of the Year. You get Arik Armstead in there. You give him a running mate that he used to have with, like, DJ Jones and DeForest Buckner. Now you go in there. You give him another elite interior lineman with Armstead. Are you kidding me? This is going to make Nick Bosa have an even better season, take pressure off the back end. What a massive dub. And again, the 49ers have been looking for interior pass rush help. Last year, Javon Kinlaw, we all saw it in the NFC Championship game. He just didn't look the part. What an upgrade. You go from one Javon to another Javon. That was the upgrade that, today, like you said, the biggest splash of free agency so far. What a move. Absolute dub. And the other thing is, now the 49ers have less pressure on a guy like Drake Jackson. Now he can come in and maybe step in and play that edge rusher role that we've been looking for. Or maybe they go and sign another edge rusher, this free agent. I don't think they're done. The 49ers, they said, you know what, we are going to improve on our number one defense. That was just amazing to me. I'm still in shock that they did it. What a move by the 49ers. And again, it just shows you that they're always looking to upgrade their team. And salary cap is something that we thought was an issue. Now, I think the question is which contracts are going to get restructured, because obviously you think $40 million guaranteed, that's a big contract. Something's going to happen. Maybe someone gets traded. So I obviously think the 49ers are still working on that next move to be able to afford this. They went and made a big move in the midseason, with Christian McCaffrey, and now they go and make this splash. So you have to kind of ask yourself, are they going to move some players around or some contracts around? That to me is the biggest question. But this was a huge, huge need. We talked about this, me and you, that I hope they can go get a big defensive lineman. We said Daron Payne, but I think he priced himself out. But this was probably option B. If you're looking at the market in terms of defensive tackles, they missed out on Daron Payne. But Javon Hargrave was huge. One more stat I want to give.
Yeah.
49ers had 55 total pressures on the interior line as a whole defense. Javon Hargrave had more by himself, 57. That is crazy.
Wow. I didn't even know that's a good one. The chat's going crazy. Jim Molay says, big start to a huge, huge offseason. Debbie says, Bosa going to eat big time. Angel Leon says, what does this mean for Javon Kinlaw? Is he getting traded? I don't think they're going to cut Kinlaw because there's no cap incentive to do as much. I know Kinlaw's been working out. I've seen the videos. You have as well.
Yeah.
I think Kinlaw's dealt. I think they're going to move Kinlaw.
Mm.
My guess, and it'll probably be draft weekend.
Yeah. I said the same thing earlier. I said if they do anything with Javon, they're not going to cut him. Draft time would probably be it, where they can package one of their picks and Javon and move up in the draft. That's what I can see. Because you're right. If they cut him, they don't gain anything from him. So if they don't move him in the draft, they're going to give him one last chance to compete, because they do like to have 11 linemen on this team as depth. So if he can make it through the draft, he'll at least compete for a spot. But that's an interesting thing. I definitely don't think they cut him. But, there was an underrated signing today from the 49ers. I know it got lost in the Hargrave news, but they brought back Kevin Givens. 1-year deal, $2 million guaranteed. I really like it. So if they do trade Kinlaw, then boom, right there, you have Kevin Givens, who's shown he's a very capable lineman. So that could be the move they make, Larry, that they might trade Kinlaw, because now you got Hargrave, you got Armstead, and you got Kevin Givens. That's a very solid trio in defensive tackle. They can go and draft some guys. They got Kalia Davis coming back, and Hassan Ridgeway just signed with the Texans. So I think you're right. I think that might be the move on draft day, move up for a bigger pick. So.
Well, it really is interesting. I've got some thoughts I want to share with you, but first let me read this one. John B says, rumor has it the Niners are going to pick up one or two more top free agents. In fact, our friend Tim Kawakami said, tweeted out earlier today that he's hearing that their 49ers are not done yet. So that should be interesting. But, the reason I love this Hargrave pickup is that the NFL has changed. And it's constantly evolving, and you need to evolve with it. It's a passing league. Teams pass. Defenses are in their sub package in the nickel or the dime like 70% of the time, and that number has gone up every single season. Not that you don't need to stop the run. You do need to stop the run, but the impetus is to have a pass rush and to have to me, I look at pass rush now as kind of like when you see the Warriors go small ball and they crucify these teams that wind up having a big on the floor that you just don't have to defend. If you can defend 5-on-4 in the NBA game because the other team's got a non-shooter on the floor, that's an advantage. Well, I think the same thing can be said on the NFL defensive front. You've got to have 4 guys who can all rush the passer. You cannot have 3 guys that can rush the passer and 1 guy like Jonathan Hankins or Javon Kinlaw or one of these guys that just totally, immobile and can't rush the passer. Every guy's got to rush the passer. Otherwise, you're giving the offensive line a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
Then you go back, Raj, and I did this the other day, so I kept my notes from this. I'm glad I did. I looked at, we lost Raj. Did I dump Raj? Did I mistakenly dump Raj? We'll get Raj back here in a second. Let me read the chat here for just a second, and we'll get Raj back. Oh, there we go. Raj, did I do that to you?
No, it was technical difficulties. My bad.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so you win in the NFL, in my opinion, when you have 2 guys on your front 4, not front 7, 2 guys on your front 4 that have to be double teamed. Okay, let's go through the list here. This year, Kansas City wins the Super Bowl. Chris Jones, Frank Clark. Got to double those guys. Last year, the Rams won the Super Bowl. Aaron Donald, Von Miller.
Yeah.
3 years ago, Tampa won the Super Bowl. Vita Vea and Jason Pierre-Paul. Now, a lot of those people go, what? No, but Pierre-Paul a couple of years ago was balling out, and Vita Vea is a monster. You got to combo those guys. Kansas City when they beat the Niners. Chris Jones, Frank Clark. Philly when they beat the Patriots, Fletcher Cox, and pick your poison between Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett, who were better at that point. Graham's have been injured since. Denver when they won here at Levi's over Carolina, they had Derek Wolfe inside, who was having a great year with Malik Jackson, and then Von Miller outside. Yeah. And then if you go back to 2013, the Seahawks, they got Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett on the same defensive line. What does that tell you? That you have to have 2 guys up front that have to be combo blocked. Now getting Hargrave with Bosa and Armstead, who's often combo blocked himself. If I was Jordan Willis, if I'm Ebukam, If I'm any defensive end worth his weight in anything, I'm like telling my agent, get me to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Get me to San Francisco. They can never chip me. They can never combo me. I'm going to get one-on-one all game, all season long, opposite Bosa, Hargrave, Armstead. You know, if I'm a defensive end and I'm looking about my next contract, get me to San Francisco. I will pile up double-digit sacks. They'll all be double teamed, and I'm going to be one-on-one all day.
Yeah. They're about to get somebody paid big money because you're right. Somebody's going to go out there. Everybody's going to be putting pressure on Bosa and Hargrave, like you said, and whoever's on that opposite side, maybe Drake Jackson, if he can step up and get himself into, shape. Whoever is on that other side is going to go crazy next year, at least 8 sacks. And that's huge in this market. But you're absolutely right. If you have to combo block 2 elite pass rushers, that's one thing. The 49ers have 3 elite defensive linemen now with Armstead, Hargrave, and Bosa. That's not something that most teams have. The 49ers took what you just said, said, okay, look, if most of these teams had 2, we're going to have 3. Try to stop that. You can barely stop 2. How are you going to stop 3? And everything you said was absolutely right. In terms of quarterbacks in this league, they've taken over. It's a passing league. We all know that. But in order to mitigate a good quarterback, you absolutely have to have a good pass rush. And if you don't, you will not win football games in the playoffs. And that's what the 49ers have showed. They have to get over the quarterbacks. And that defensive line fell apart in the second half of the season. They were tired. Nick Bosa needed help. Armstead played through injuries last year. Javon Kinlaw didn't give him enough. They needed some juice. And look what the Eagles did. They had 70 sacks last year. They just kept rolling, kept going because they had so much phenomenal defensive linemen in there getting pressures. And that is exactly what the 49ers said. They said, you know what? What's been our success? Defense. And the other thing of this whole situation with them getting Hargrave, it keeps this defense elite. And if you know the 49ers over the last couple of years with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, their defense has typically carried them. I know last year their offense exploded with Brock Purdy coming in that second half in CMC, but the quarterback situation is still an issue. We don't know what Trey's going to give us. We don't know how, when, where, when Brock Purdy's coming back. We have a good estimate, but will he be the same? So we don't know. If the 49ers start a little slow in the quarterback department in the season, at least, the defense can keep them in games. They can kind of carry them for a little bit, let them coast, put them in good positions to win games until they figure out that situation with the quarterbacks. Because I don't know how Trey's going to do. We don't know what Brock's going to come in. So right now, the defense is still going to carry your team, just like they have through this whole regime. And I am ecstatic because you got a new defensive coordinator. You give him another big-time weapon. I think this is great for Steve Wilks. Shows that, hey, we want you to go out there and do whatever you can. We're going to give you all the weapons you want. Money move to me. I think, again, just a solid signing for the 49ers. And it's going to allow them to just dominate in the NFC because I don't really think there's really big-time teams in the NFC in terms of maybe the Eagles, they got Jalen Hurts, he's good, but just look around that division specifically. NFC West, they're falling apart. The Rams, they lost Jalen Ramsey. They're losing players.
Shopping Stafford.
Crazy, yeah, shopping Stafford. The Cardinals, they're not going to have Kyler. They're looking like they're going to be a bottom dweller for a while. The only team that might compete with this is the Seattle Seahawks. They got a good coach. They draft well. But Geno Smith couldn't beat us without Javon Hargrave. What's he going to do against us now with Javon Hargrave? So the 49ers are sitting in peak position to win the NFC West, and they'll probably get a 1 seed if they can rattle out some games early on in the season. And that's why this is important, because the 49ers know they might get a slow start on offense with their quarterback situation. So at least put your defense in position to help you win games. I think it was amazing.
Yeah, the one thing with the Niners, they know they're going to have a young quarterback.
Yeah.
So bolster your running game, bolster your defense, and you're good to go. And look at the NFC, folks. Raj speaks no lies on this. There's Philly, there's the Niners, and there ain't anybody else. And I if there is somebody else, I stand corrected, but I don't see it. I do not see it. Debbie says, congrats to Raj. 10,000 on YouTube today. 10,000, Raj.
We're getting there. Yeah.
Damn, Raj. Dude, you're blowing up.
I'm not as big as you,
on YouTube?
Yeah. We hit that 10K. I was live on my initial reactions to Hargrave, and it hit 10K. So appreciate all the fans out there that always support me. So, yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. That's awesome to hear. By the way, I was talking about all those great teams that have won the Super Bowl in the last decade that had 2 guys on their front that had to be comboed. Let's look at the Niners. The last time they had a Super Bowl winning team, they had Bryant Young and Dana Stubblefield. Both those guys had to be comboed. When they went to the Super Bowl against Kansas City, they had Nick Bosa and DeForest Buckner. Both those guys had to be doubled. When they went to the Super Bowl against the Ravens, they had the Cowboy and Aldon Smith. Both of those guys had to be doubled. You got to have a big-time defensive line where two guys have to be doubled. And if that's the case, it just frees up everybody else. Now, John B. says, I'd like to still add another defensive end, a quality defensive end. This one right below it is interesting. Trock Talks. Heard Javon Kinlaw on a pick to the Panthers for Brian Burns.
Wow.
Now, if that happens, I mean, then watch the hell out. If you got Burns and Bosa, Kinlaw, I mean, Armstead and Hargrave.
Ooh, if that happens, Larry, I'm going to the bank, taking all the money I have in my savings account and betting on the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. There's no way that happens. That would be crazy. Burns and Bosa, Hargrave and Armstead, that's crazy to me. I don't know if that's definitely a beautiful pipe dream. There's no way it happens. But if it does, Larry, holy smokes. Could you imagine?
It would just be absolutely amazing. We got this one from Mole. Says, got to admit, though, I'll probably watch more Raider games now just to see how Jimmy does. All right, the other news of the day, I thought, obviously the Hargrave move is the biggest one. Yeah. And he chose the Niners over the Browns, from what I read. Yeah. And there's some people that are concerned about Hargrave's ability to play the run. I think he plays the run pretty well, but he's a pass rusher. That's what he is. He's an interior pass rusher who had 11 sacks last year, and that's what you need. Givens re-signing was a huge move today. Raj already pointed that one out. But the other news today is Jimmy Garoppolo is officially a Raider. 2 years, $67.5 million, 40-17 career as a starter for Jimmy G. What do you think of the marriage with Jimmy in the Raiders?
I'm happy for him. It definitely marks the end of the Jimmy Garoppolo era. It was a weird time with the 49ers. He came in, he stole our hearts. We thought he was the guy. The injuries mounted up. It was a weird time, but again, he did his thing here. I'm happy for him. That was a nice contract for him. $67.5 million, $34 million guaranteed. I mean, the question remains, will he be an upgrade over Derek Carr? That was always a question in the 49ers because they were rumored to get Carr in the past, and people are like, oh, you don't get rid of Jimmy to get Carr. So that is a big question. I like it for Jimmy because he goes to a team that has a coach that's very familiar with him. They have a lot of good weapons for him. Tay Adams, Renfro, you got Waller, you got Jacobs there. That's a phenomenal move. You're going to go to a team that was loaded with weapons. He's going to have a similar skill set of players there. Renfro, he can be, that quick slant type guy. You got Tay Adams, a guy who can do it all. He's what people compare Brandon Ayuk to. And then Jacobs is a phenomenal runner. And, Jimmy loves the run game to rely on that. And then you got a tight end like Waller. So good move for Jimmy, I think. We'll see how it works out for the Raiders. This was crazy because, again, it just signifies the end of an era. 49ers have had a tumultuous relationship with him. Shanahan, we've heard all the rumors over the years. They tried to trade him. He came back. And now we can really focus on Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, because there were still rumors leaking in. Maybe they'll bring back Jimmy. But it's officially over. The marriage is over. And I'm excited for him. I'm happy for him. I wish him good luck. We'll see how it goes. I'm happy for the guy. This was a huge contract for him. This is probably his last contract he'll ever sign. He cashed in, and kudos to him. One thing I do want to add, going back to Hargrave, I know he's not a run stuffer, but that's why you have Armstead. Now you have Armstead, who's the big run stuffer, and then Hargrave's your pass rusher up the middle. And to me, it's the best of both worlds there. But what do you think about Jimmy?
Well, I think he's going to a really tough division. That's one. I think you hit on the other point, which is he's got great weapons. Devontae Adams, Waller, Renfro, the running game, Jacobs, but it's all about the Raiders O-line. Can the Raiders bolster their defense? Can the Raiders bolster their O-line in front of Jimmy? If they do, and if Jimmy can continue to show the discipline that he showed this last year to just throw the ball into the turf from time to time. I think the Raiders are going to love him because I think Carr the last few years has just been totally about Carr. I think it's been totally about like self-preservation. Don't get hurt. Don't stand in against the rush, throw the ball away. I just think Carr came into the league as a great competitor, but he's not a great competitor anymore. Yeah. And Jimmy is. Jimmy will hold the ball and let his receivers free themselves open down the field. Jimmy will stand in, take a hit. Carr's not taking hits. Carr's getting rid of the ball. Carr's all about himself. So I love this move from the Raiders' perspective. It's all about their offensive line. I mean,
Yeah.
and then from the Niner perspective, I think, there have been many people, Raj, and you've talked to him, I've talked to him, we're like, I don't understand why they even want to get rid of Jimmy. Well, you know what? Today is the example of why you want to get rid of Jimmy, because quarterbacks in the NFL cost $20 million a year unless you're a rookie on a rookie deal. And the Niners now have Purdy on a rookie deal. They still have Trey on his rookie deal. And so, they got an extra $20 million laying around. Who are you going to give it to? Oh, how about Javon Hargrave?
Exactly.
So you wouldn't have Javon Hargrave if Jimmy were here. Do you want Purdy and Lance and Hargrave, or do you want Jimmy and no Hargrave? That's the trade-off. In a nutshell, we could debate all these other things and nuances, and there's more to it than that. But at the end of the day, that's it. Rookie quarterbacks make nothing. Veteran quarterbacks make 20 or 30, or in some cases 40, Daniel Jones. And when you have 40 million in a hard cap sport going to your quarterback, that's 25 million you can't spend on other guys in your football team. And if you take that and invest in a rookie quarterback or two, like the Niners have, now you can say, hey, yeah, we're up against the cap at Javon Hargrave. Come on down, because we got $20 million freed up that we can throw you.
Yeah.
To me, with Jimmy, they wouldn't have, no way they could have touched Hargrave. Without him, he fits.
Yeah, 100%. That absolutely 100%. Like, that is the biggest takeaway of this is, kudos to Jimmy for getting his money, but the 49ers, now they can move on and upgrade their team in ways they probably couldn't, because you do have two quarterbacks on a rookie deal. You have to take advantage of this. We mentioned this last time on our show when we talked about the Super Bowl several weeks ago. The teams that make it to the Super Bowl typically have a quarterback on a rookie deal because they can bolster their team on both sides of the line, add some playmakers, and that's what you do. Now the 49ers, they have that luxury. They got CMC. They can rework that deal out and make it make sense. And now you got Hargrave. And to me, there is absolutely no Hargrave. They could have got some big splash last year, probably an even bigger splash than Charvarius Ward, which he was great. They could have went and even got bigger players if they didn't have to commit that money to Jimmy. And again, that's a lot of money to play for a quarterback who might not even have played on this team this year. So, if they're going to go spend all that money on a guy that might be holding a clipboard, you're seriously prohibiting your team from getting to where it needs to be. So this was a huge win in terms of, freeing up money to sign someone. And not only that, but we've talked about the draft several times with the draft picks. So the 49ers always stay ahead of the curve with their compensatory picks. Jimmy going over to the Raiders, they're going to be rewarded a compensatory pick in 2024 next year for his return. They gave up a second round pick for him several years ago when they got him. They're probably going to get a third round pick. So you got a couple of years out of this guy, and then he leaves. You free up cap space. You're going to have two young quarterbacks on your team that you could build around, and you're getting a third round pick, which the 49ers use pretty damn good for the most part with their mid round and late round picks. So that's a huge, huge dub right there. They're going to replace Jimmy with the guy that can probably come in and start at some point down the line. So right there is the biggest W to me in this trade, is they're going to get a big time compensatory pick for Jimmy's departure next year. And another guy they're going to get a compensatory pick. The other news we haven't talked about today, Mike McGlinchey went and got a massive contract.
We're going to hit that right here. Let's hit that. But first, let me mention we're sponsored by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out in Corte Madera. They're at 341 Corte Madera Town Center right there in Central Marin. And they're also in Emeryville, in the Emeryville Public Marketplace. They're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Get the brisket chili. They do catering, craft beers, kids menus, family menus. Love Pig and a Pickle. The brisket chili is amazing. The potato chips cooked in beef fat, also equally amazing. Check out Pig and a Pickle, proud sponsor of today's Krueg Show. All right, Michael McCann says, what's your opinion on offensive tackle Tyler Sheen in the draft out of Bama? Could be available at 99. Can you see the Niners going after a guy like that? I've seen a little bit of Sheen. That he's a guy that I think is going to be in that range. I haven't done a full breakdown on all the O linemen. I like Palszewski quite a bit from Illinois, who I think is going to be like around 4, around 5 guy. But yeah, interesting name there. And I think offensive tackle in the draft is definitely something they're going to look at. Spider Rico tells me that Dr. Keith Meister gave the 49ers good news on Purdy's elbow. and they feel confident starting Purdy in a win now mode and taking advantage of Purdy's $938,000 average salary until 2025. They've got cap flexibility. Let's talk about Mike McGlinchey. Raj, McGlinchey goes to the Broncos. I thought he was headed to the Bears. He goes to the Broncos, 5 years, $87.5 million, 50 plus million guaranteed for McGlinchey. And he was the Niner fans' favorite whipping boy, and they loved to go after him. But McGlinchey, at the end of the day, was a really solid run blocker, a really great leader in the room, a very respected voice in that locker room without a doubt. His issue was that he lacks the kick out speed against elite speed rushers. And if he went up against one or two of them, especially the undersized guys, they would and it's a speed game. It's becoming more of a speed game, more of a pass rush game. I thought everything in his game kind of broke down when he would have to kick out to get to those speed rushers, because then they could knife back inside and knock him off his feet, like we saw Micah Parsons do, where you catch McGlinchey lunging and now you're using his body weight and you're clubbing him, and he's, horizontal to the ground, and people are laughing at him on social media. But I think, for Denver, they get a high quality guy, but for the 49ers, I think he was a good Niner. I think I don't know that I would invest the 9th pick again in a right tackle. I think I'd rather go later in the draft for a right tackle. But he wasn't a bad player, and Niner fans kind of made him seem like he was a bad player. I disagree with John, who says the Broncos wasted $87 million. I like McGlinchey, but I wouldn't have paid him. And I think the 49ers made the right move in letting him go. What's your thought on Mike?
Yeah, I don't hate the guy. I think what the problem was, when he made mistakes, they were so glaring and they came at critical junctions, like his penalties, holding penalties. And you expect more out of a guy that was a top 10 pick. And I think that's what it comes down to. The fan base expected him to be at least a Pro Bowler. He never made a Pro Bowl. He never made an All Pro. Like, that's what we expected. We expected more. But I mean, man, he set the market today. So for whatever the 49er fans think, other teams have a different perspective of him. They may be looking at him and say, hey, this guy was a top flight run blocker. He had his issues in run blocking, but he's a phenomenal run blocker. And I think that's what the Broncos know. And they're going to use his strengths. They got a great coach now with Peyton. So maybe he knows how he's going to get the most out of a guy like that. So when you have a good coach, and maybe that's what he needs, is a change of pace. Maybe he needs a fresh start, because he was definitely the whipping boy in 49ers land. I wouldn't have paid him that much money. That's a lot, especially for a guy that was a top 10 pick that just never reached that potential. But, good luck to him. He's got a lot of money. And I think that the team is going to miss him in the terms of, he was a good leader. He definitely was like a good captain type guy, good locker room voice. I remember talking to several people. Cam Inman told me how he's like the CEO of the locker. People really looked up to him. Spencer Burford had mentioned to me one time that that's the guy that really helped him out through his rookie season. He always would look to him on that right side and gave him a lot of advice and stuff. So in terms of leadership, yeah, they'll probably miss him, because he was a guy that was on the team for a long time. But I think that they'll be able to replace his pass rush abilities. I don't know about his run blocking, but the 49ers always seem to get guys that are good at run blocking. That's what Kyle does. He finds guys that fit his scheme. It'll be interesting to see if Colton McKivitz can actually be a guy to be an upgrade. I don't know if that's going to be an upgrade over McGlinchey, because I think Colton McKivitz is the guy that's going to replace him right now, unless they make another move or make a big-time draft pick, maybe trade up. But it'll be interesting, because he was a guy that got a lot of crap, but he played well enough, I feel like, to be a starter on the team, but definitely wasn't above and beyond that. He was an elite guy. But one thing where you got to give him some credit this year. He played off of a bad injury. He had the quad tear. I think people gave him a lot of crap. He did play through a pretty nasty injury. And he did have a lot of nagging injuries through his career. If you look back through his history, hamstring thing, he was always doing like the PRP injection. So maybe he never was a fully healthy, and he still grinded out there. So I got a lot of respect for that. But hey, I wouldn't have paid him that much money. That's a lot of money. $50 million guaranteed. Oh man, I'm pretty sure 49er fans are happy he's gone.
Well, I mean, just think of it this way. The 49ers 2 years ago got one win away from the Super Bowl. They had Brunskill and Compton on the right side.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd much rather invest my dollars in athletes on defense than invest in offensive linemen, just because it's a little safer to go for Mike McGlinchey than a tackle in the draft. I need a little bit. I need a lot more than it's a little safer if I'm going to invest that kind of cash. Twisted Clown says, buy a beer to a Raider and Bronco fan. LOL. We got this one. Todd Jersey says, we've got the guy you wanted. Yippee. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's for you or for me, but I definitely wanted Hargrave. I definitely wanted them to go defensive tackle. I've been saying for weeks since the end of the year that defensive tackle over offensive tackle or corner or safety or tight end was the number one need for the 49ers. Once I saw Kinlaw getting bounced around, I'm like, that's it. Game over. He's not, if he can't rush the passer. I know that. I don't need anybody to tell me anything about what he is as a pass rusher because I know I can look at the stats. The guy's played 20, 30 games. He's got 1 sack. He's not a pass rusher. So what does that mean? That's fine. That means he has to be an ass kicker on first and second down against the run, and he wasn't. He was getting bounced around left and right. Kelsey embarrassed him. Now, in the film that Kinlaw put out there, I'd be shocked. Somebody before said Kinlaw and a pick to the Panthers for Burns. I would be shocked if there's a team out there that really wants to trade for Javon Kinlaw. It's like they always say, you're as good as your last show. You're as good as your last tape. And when they roll in the tape and they see him getting kicked out of the club play after play after play and bouncing around like a 217 pound, skinny body at whatever he is, 320 or whatever. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a big market for Javon in trade. I'd be shocked. I think they will trade him. But they'll trade him at a loss. They're not going to get much for him. That'll be my guess.
Yeah, I don't think he's. I definitely don't think they can get much out of him. I mean, again, he's a flame out pick that just didn't, top 15 pick. They got nowhere. So again, that's a guy that has a very, very small market, and he couldn't stay on the field. So I'd be surprised what they can get from him. Maybe they can use it to trade up in a trade draft spot. That's really all I can see. So
Bobby D439 says, Lair, Raj, can you guys explain to me, as if I was a child, how the 49ers had $5 million or so in cap space and signed an $84 million contract today?
Well, I think that they're
Raj?
in the process. I think they're in the process of reworking some contracts. So again, you got to remember that today is the legal tampering period. They can negotiate, they can agree to terms
today.
So it's not official today. So Wednesday will be when they can make an official, because they still got things to do in order to make that official, in terms of restructuring deals, in terms of re-signing some players or cutting some players or trading some players. So they still have 2 days where they can kind of cut some money around here and there over the edges and make it, to the point where they can afford them. And again, Parag Marathi does this every year. They have some moves that they can make in terms of contract negotiation and restructuring. I'm not worried about it. I let those guys do their job because they do it a great job every year. They figure it out. And then right now it seems like, oh my God, how are they going to afford all these players? When you see that big cap hit, you're like, oh yeah. But you got to remember that nothing is official till Wednesday. So they got 2 days to get this figured out.
Well, and Bobby, I would say to you, maybe Google 49ers cap room or 49ers cap room restructures. I've read a couple articles in the last, let's say 3-4 days, and I can't remember who wrote them, but they're basically the way that the 49ers can create an enormous amount of potential cap room by restructuring McCaffrey, getting the Bosa deal done. I was talking to Matt Barrows the other day. He said, I said, how are the Niners going to improve their cap room? He said, probably the number one way they're going to improve their cap room is by signing Bosa. Because right now Bosa is penciled in at a franchise tag number, but he is going to sign and that number is going to come way down and that money is going to be kind of reallocated to their cap. So I think I would not be shocked to hear Nick Bosa get an extension and have that extension take place in the next day or two. And a big portion of that restructured cash gives the Niners the extra money they need to go play in free agency. That's from what I'm reading and what I'm understanding, that's how it goes. But yeah, you read that and you're like, hey, they got $5 to $8 million under the cap. Oh, and they signed a guy for $84 million. How does that work? But as Raj said, today is just kind of like a theoretical day, even though we expect all these moves to be final. But there is a hard deadline date where they're going to have money off the books, and you'll see some restructures. One of the lines in here that caught my attention on the chat, somebody said that Aziz has already said that he's gone.
Yeah,
have you seen that, Raj?
I just saw it right now. I just posted. So he just, as we were talking, that was the message, that the news that was coming out right now. He basically just said goodbye. It's nothing official, no reports, but on his Instagram, he posted. We'll read it. He says, "Excited for the next journey and grateful for the past. Thank you to the 49ers. God's time and all praise to Allah." So it does seem that Aziz Al-Shahir is expecting to go to another team. So it does seem like he said goodbye to the fans, and we're awaiting word to know where he's going. So yeah, Aziz Al-Shahir is pretty much a done deal.
Yeah, and this is under the category of you can't pay everybody. Yeah. Do you like Warner? You love Warner. Do you like Dre Greenlaw? You love Dre Greenlaw. Do you like Aziz? You love Aziz. But unfortunately, that third linebacker in today's, heavy nickel package is only really on the field about 30% of the time. So it's hard to justify big dollars for your third best linebacker. I talked to Aziz a couple times late in the year. He came here because Chris Kiffin, who's Kiffin's kid, who was working on the staff. Chris was the guy who had discovered Aziz in college in Florida and recommended Aziz to the Niners. He had a lot of loyalty. Aziz had a lot of loyalty to the 49ers because he had a shot as an undrafted free agent. And I think all things being equal, man, he absolutely would have loved to stay in the room. And they love him as a player. Yeah. But it just really comes down to you can't pay everybody. And you know what? I would say this: if Aziz was my son, I would say go get the bag, because you can only play so many years of football. And yeah, he loves the Niners. I guarantee you, if you gave the option, he would have stayed with the Niners. That's how much he loves his brothers, how much he loves his Johnny Holland and the other linebackers. Aziz was all about being a Niner. But, the Niners really, it was not in the cards for them to pay him. That's why you saw the extension for Marcelino McCrary-Ball. The 49ers they like undersized linebackers, can run and hit. And I think there's a couple in this draft. Mikel Jones out of Syracuse, and the kid, what's his name? It's not Mayweather, but it's another a linebacker that I saw, or Texas Tech linebacker, who goes about 215, 220. These guys are going to be 7th round picks, and you're going to be able to get these guys and slide them right into Aziz's spot, as well as Marcelino McCrary-Ball. And I don't want to say there's no difference between Aziz and McCrary-Ball, but let's say Aziz is a 7, McCrary-Ball is a 6. You know what I mean? So I actually think they save money there, Raj. And I hate to see Aziz go, because I love the guy. I think he's a tremendous football player. He shows up to win. He loves to hit. He's violent. And that's why other teams wanted him. But congratulations to Aziz for wherever he goes and whatever bag he secures. And I kind of knew this one was coming.
Yeah, I saw it. I mean, the writing was on the wall. You can't afford everybody, like you said. There's some players that you're going to lose, but the 49ers are such a good team in drafting and developing players that they are going to find someone to replace them, whether it's McCrary-Ball or someone they draft. Linebackers, to me, I'm never worried with the 49ers when it comes to linebackers. Look, I mean, they found a guy like Aziz, who was an undrafted player who had a torn ACL in college, and they gave him that chance to develop him. His first year on the 49ers, nobody expected him to be where he was. He really improved and improved and improved, and he became what he was. And you got a guy that's ready to burst onto the team and become like a Pro Bowl player. You don't want to stunt his development. It'd be great to keep him on the team, but you have Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. You don't need Aziz Al-Shahir. You need to make sure you upgrade other positions, linemen, like we talked about, and situations like that. Aziz Al-Shahir
went to Detroit, sounds like, huh?
Detroit? Maybe.
Well, Josh in the chat says Aziz to the Lions.
Is it?
He signed with the Lions, Josh.
Is it official?
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing Lions.
Let's see.
Hey, you know what? Great fucking pickup by the Lions.
Wow.
I mean, seriously, the Lions are smart. That was smart. And I don't blame the Niners for letting him go. Do you?
Oh, I don't, man. He deserves to be like a Fred Warner on a defense. He deserves to be like Fred Warner, like his own guy.
G-Code Travels Vlog POV donates. He says, any news about the signing of place kicker Matt Gay? He's a must, and he's very young. I like Eddie Pinheiro. I like Matt Gay. I definitely would go veteran kicker over rookie kicker. I don't know if you're hearing anything about Matt Gay. I have not heard anything
I haven't heard
about
anything.
Matt Gay.
If we're going
Falcons
with the
get Jesse
rookie,
Bates. I also saw that. Jimmy Robinson saying that.
Yeah.
What did you think of the re-signing of Tayshaun Gibson yesterday? And obviously the Niners had talked about Jesse Bates. If you had said to me, if we had John Lynch here right now, and it was yesterday, and he said to us, "Hey, Krueg, Raj, I can throw big money at Bates or I can throw big money at Hargrave," I would have said Hargrave all day, every day.
And that's exactly what I said last night. I said, yeah, Bates is great, but I want to splash on the D-line. And I'm glad they went on the D-line over the safety. Great player, no disrespect to Jesse Bates, but Hargrave makes more of an impact on a team. And we talked about it. To get to a quarterback, you said it earlier, your amazing stat of the 2 pass rushers to stunt, like that right there, I'm blown away by that still. The fact that all those teams that made it to the Super Bowl had a premier defensive tackle pass rusher and a premier edge rusher pass rusher. That is the ticket to at least getting to the Super Bowl. Jesse Bates is not your ticket to the Super Bowl. He's not getting after the quarterback. He might make some cool interceptions here and there. Hargrave is more necessary to get to the Super Bowl than Jesse Bates, 100%.
Josh says Aziz goes to the Lions 3 years, $18.75 million. Here's the thing on Gibson, and I don't know how you feel about this. Now, I had a chance. The only advantage I have on any of these other media people who don't get a chance to talk to the guys, I actually get a chance to go in there and talk to these guys, and you get a feel for how they interact around each other and who the leaders are, who the veterans are, who the guys are that are kind of leaned on. I love the Gibson pickup. Bates would have been nice. I talked about it last week with Grant Cohn. He would have been nice, but I look at Bates as just a younger, cheaper, slightly better version of Tayshaun Gibson. Gibson is a ball hawk. He's got great hands. The reason I like the Gibson pickup is because look at the 49ers secondary. Hufanga's young. Lenore's young. Ambry Thomas is young. There's a very good chance they're going to wind up drafting a young safety. There's a very good chance they're going to wind up drafting another young corner. Samuel Womack's young. You got to have some veteran leader in the middle of the field to make sure everybody's lined up right, to make sure everybody at every snap understands the down and the distance and what's being asked of us here on this particular play. And I love Tayshaun Gibson's ability to be a ball hawk in center field in the zone defense. I would like him to be a little bit better in coverage and man. They don't play a lot of man, but I will say this. He's got 30 plus career interceptions. If you can put heat on the quarterback up front, with a Hargrave, with an Armstead, with a Bosa, with whoever you have, that quarterback's going to float a ball in the middle of the field. A guy like Gibson's going to pick it off.
He's a ball
He's not
hawk.
going to drop it like Tart.
Like Ward. I was going to say, not like Kowalski Tart. He's a ball hawk, and you know what? A veteran leader. That's exactly why you bring him in. We're probably going to lose Jimmy Ward unless he wants to take money to play nickel. But like you just said, we have a guy like Womack who could probably play nickel. This man, Tayshaun Gibson, came in, underrated move, 17 games. He led the team in interceptions. You bring him on a cheap 2-year deal. He can be a solid veteran. And then you draft someone, he can mentor him to take that role in the next year. And the other reason you bring him back is him and Talanoa Hufanga developed such a good rapport in that back end. Those two guys were like brothers. You saw them embrace. Gibson told Jennifer Lee Chan earlier in this offseason, if I come back, it's because of Hufanga. That's what you want, that locker room brotherhood. That right there is what you need. Leadership, the family, the brotherhood. If you're going to lose Jimmy Ward, you at least bring back one big-time veteran to help this team, because you do need some vets. You get some star young players, but you need vets. And it is an absolute – I think that was a great way to start free agency by bringing back Tayshaun Gibson. He was going to retire. We thought he was going to retire. He comes back. The 49ers gave him an opportunity. They brought him back last year, kind of resurrected his career. And he stays loyal to them, comes back, and he's probably going to retire after this year in his last 2 years on the 49ers. And it was a good, cheap signing because, again, Jesse Bates, great, but you would have had to pay him a lot of money where you can go draft a guy in the 3rd round and develop him. He might become as good as Jesse Bates in 2 or 3 years. So I like it.
Gary says Frank Clark next.
I don't know
about Frank Clark. I think he's probably a little bit of a character risk. Jay Eli or Ellie says Leonard Floyd with the Niners.
Woo, Leonard Floyd.
Tell me you heard that. Tell me that's not just your opinion.
I think he's just hearing these things because I don't even see the official news for Aziz Al-Shahir anywhere. I think that's some people are playing with this, Larry. I don't know.
Well, I'll see this. This one says Aziz reunited with D'Amico, so maybe it's Texans. I was expecting he'd go to the Texans.
I think so too. Yeah.
I'd be surprised. All right, so just to what we do know, Javon Hargrave is a 49er, 4 years, 84 million, 20 plus million per for Javon Hargrave. Niners re-signed Kevin Givens. Jimmy Garoppolo is now a Raider. Mike McGlinchey is now a Bronco. Hassan Ridgeway is now a Texan. We think Aziz Al-Shaair, whether he signs with the Texans or Lions, I'm almost convinced 100% that he's gone. Tim Kawakami says the 49ers are not done yet, according to his sources. There's a rumor out there that the Niners are showing interest in Trey Herndon, according to Josina Anderson. That's a young corner with Jacksonville. You know what? I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on the league. I have not studied Trey Herndon at all. Have you heard anything good, bad, or otherwise about Trey Herndon?
I heard he's like a special team type guy, nickel corner, small guy.
Yeah, I heard a lot of slot play, maybe a slot corner.
Play, yeah, he could probably be a nickel guy, maybe depth. Just because Womack, obviously we expect him to be the nickel, but you want to give him some competition in camp. Give him a little competition, but also special team. The 49ers want to make sure their special teams are good. If you're going to take Sam Womack and transition him from a special team role, because he was good at that last year, and make him a starting nickel, you're probably going to need to replace him in special teams. So to me, my brain goes, okay, if Womack's your nickel, you got this guy Trey Herndon. He's going to take Sam Womack's role in the special teams department. That's the way I see it.
Jake Brendel. Where do you think Jake Brendel stays? You think Jake Brendel goes? I kind of think that because of the Niners, cap situation and their array of needs, because of the presence of Poe and Zakel sitting right there. And you've got free agency all there in front of you. You got the draft coming up. I think Brendel's what he's going to be able to secure outside of the Niners is going to be too rich for their blood. I think Jake's going to bail.
Yeah, if he's willing to come back on a hometown discount, cool. But he's 30 years old. It was his first year as a starter. If he goes and gets a contract, I'm happy for him because he was journeyman through his whole career. He started 1 year, played good. Third in pass block efficiency per PFF, 88.6 grade. So, I mean, good for him. The Niners do have some youngsters, Nick Zakel and Jason Poe, who can take that step up. 49ers have shown that they've been able to take a guy, develop him, and make him, worthwhile. But the only issue I see with that is you're going to have two guys possibly doing that in McKivitz and one of those two guys. So I do hope they can bring him back because he was a solid center. And
really solid.
It's a critical position for the 49ers, but to me, it sounds like he's going to price his way out because the way the market is, O-lineman. But if the market doesn't hit at center, then I think the 49ers are going to be able to bring him back at a discount. But to me, if I had to take a guess, I don't think we bring him back.
Here's the thing. Offensive line's important, but if you look at the Shanahan regime, I believe Brendel this year was their fifth different starting center in 6 seasons. And they took him from, street free agent practice squad and just said, hey, we're going to promote this guy. And I think that was like one of the biggest questions in training camp was how was the 49er interior line going to play with Aaron Banks, unproven at the time at left guard, with Spencer Burford and Brunskill at right guard, and with Jake Brendel, totally unproven entity at center. And you know what? The Niners got almost to the Super Bowl. And as the season progressed, I kind of felt like the interior offensive line evolved into a strength. Banks is now looks like he's going to have a 10-year career. Brendel was a Pro Bowl alternate. Yeah. Burford and Brunskill, I thought adeptly handled the right guard spot. So now, I'd be okay with Nick Zakel at center. I'd be okay with Poe at center. I agree with you. They probably need to be fortified in the draft or maybe with somebody else in free agency. But I'd be okay if Brendel walks, even though, I've got great respect for the season he had this year. I kind of agree with Jay Ellie here. Is just go bigger at center. You have Brock Purdy. And I don't know if I saw this stat late in the year, Raj. When the Niners kept Brock Purdy clean, he completed 84% of his passes. So I would love to see them replace Brendel with a bigger bodied guy up front that just cannot be waltzed into the lap of Purdy. Somebody who could really hold the point against the most powerful interior rushers in the game and just put up a freaking fortress around your quarterback, especially in the middle. The fastest way for a young quarterback to lose his confidence, whether it be Trey or Brock, is pressure up the middle in the A gap in his face repeatedly. And Brendel didn't allow that. I'm not saying Brendel was a turnstile. He was not. He was good. As I said, he was a Pro Bowl alternate, but he's like in that low 280 range, 280, 285. I'd like to see somebody who's like 310, 320, who could absolutely just stonewall the interior guys. That's maybe a little bit bigger bodied. I'd be okay with Zakel, who I think goes about 310.
I agree. If they can get a bigger guy, and no disrespect of Jake, like I said, he did good, but he is 30 years old. It was his first year as a starter. So he was definitely knowing he was in a contract season. So it's congrats to him if he goes and gets a bag. If you can upgrade that position, by all means do it. I'd be happy, because one thing we talk about on this 49ers offseason is quarterbacks, right? And they've had a multitude of injuries with, over the years. This is not the only year they've had injuries. You've had Jimmy Garoppolo have all these injuries, all this crazy stuff. Through the years, injury. And you need to make sure you can keep your quarterbacks upright, because if your O-line falls apart and you can't protect your quarterback, then you will be on your quarterback 3, whoever the heck that's going to be. So I agree. If you can upgrade and guarantee that you have the best O-line, or at least top 5 in the NFL, you're in good position with 2 young quarterbacks, because they need confidence, not just from the coaching staff, but from their team around them. If they feel like they're always in pressure, that's going to stress them out. So, yeah, you're right. If you can upgrade somehow, go bigger. Go look what you just did to your D-line. If you can do that to your O-line today, the 49ers have won the offseason. If they can go out and make a money move at center, just like they did at defensive tackle, that's it. They've won free agency. They can focus on the draft, re-sign Nick Bosa, and we're good to go. That's it.
Jay Ellie says, Krug, would that be Bozeman? Asking about the center, Bozeman. Okay, I'm looking at the center list. I liked Rodney Hudson, but he retired, right? So he said that's enough for me. He's gone. I'm looking at the center list. Bradley Bozeman played for Carolina this year. That's an interesting name. The other interesting name, John Feliciano, who played for the New York Giants, played at the Miami Hurricanes, played with the Raiders. I like Feliciano. He's tough. He can play center. He can play guard. He's kind of a journeyman at this point. But I'll tell you the name that would move the needle. I mean, Raj and I would be like going live a second time today if this happened. This would move the needle. Think about it. What did the Niners do today? What was their biggest move today? It was signing Javon Hargrave.
Yeah.
Why is that such a great move? Because it makes the Niners better, and it makes the only team standing between the Niners and the Super Bowl worse.
Oh, I know.
What about Jason
Kelce? Oh my God.
How big would today be if the Niners took Javon Hargrave off the Eagles D-line and Jason Kelce, a future Hall of Fame center, off of the Eagles O-line? Think about that for a second. If you want to say John Lynch, big baller, shot caller, roll into the first day of free agency and say, oh, the Eagles stand between us and the Super Bowl. Hey, Hargrave, Kelce, you guys come with us. What do you think, Raj?
Oh my God. I'm getting the graphic ready right now. I want it to happen.
How awesome would that be?
Mind, when I was talking about center and you want to go bigger and upgrade, that to me is in my mind. I was like, what if they were to get Kelce? If they go get Kelce, you have a Hall of Famer, Kelce, and a Hall of Famer, Trent Williams, on the same line. Are you kidding me? Oh my!
Someone says Jason Kelce re-signed. I didn't see that.
I don't think he re-signed. I think he said he's coming back, but I don't think he officially re-signed.
Oh well, let's see. It says Jason Kelce's returning to the Eagles for a 13th season.
Yeah. Oh, he is coming back. Okay,
so maybe that's just loyalty.
Maybe.
Have they agreed to
returning to the 2020? It just says returning for the 2023 season. It doesn't say. The NFL's headline says it will return to the Eagles. Yeah, I guess he is coming back to the Eagles. He'll be coming back for, man. You had me for a second there, Larry. You had me for a second.
That would have been a great idea, though, wouldn't it?
Holy moly! Can you imagine if you strip them of their 2 big pieces in the trenches, bring him to the Niners. That would have been crazy.
Here's the other one. Since we like that one, how about C.J. Gardner-Johnson? You take away Hargrave and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now you're talking.
You go
play C.J. Gardner-Johnson as the nickel.
Yeah.
I think he's best as the nickel anyway.
You think so? You think he's best off?
I do. I like him. I like him as a man-to-man nickel guy.
He's so versatile, man. So honestly, I could see him fitting anywhere on a defense. That's what he's so good. He could play literally anywhere on the defense. He could play safety. You could play him on the outside. You could play him in the slot. I mean, the guy's a money player. And the 49ers, they love versatility. Like, to me, Gardner-Johnson would have been the perfect Niner if he never goes to the team. He's like the perfect Niner because they want players that can move around. Jimmy Ward, that's what they wanted with him, is a guy that can move around. Gardner-Johnson's cool with it. So I would love to bring a guy like Gardner-Johnson. But, man, I mean, again, I'm not going to say never at this point because 49ers got Hargrave today, and now I'm kind of expecting him to do something else.
I think I was, somebody said they should go for edge rushers. Let's see, what do we have here? Okay, here we go. Josh says, rumor has it we're not done in calling on edge rushers and O-linemen. Now, the one guy that I really kind of would be excited about edge rusher wise, I think is off the board. I think he just signed, and that's Agbanio Okoronkwo, who was with where was he this year? Raiders maybe, or Houston?
Texans, I think. Houston.
Yeah.
So he just signed.
He goes to Cleveland.
3 years, $19 million deal, $12.5 million guaranteed. That was a big move for them, yeah.
But Leonard Floyd, I'd be really hot to trot on Leonard Floyd, Yannick Ngakoue, Jadeveon Clowney, Marcus Golden, I think, is a really underrated player.
Good player.
I could see them bringing back Arden Key. I'm just looking at the list of edge rushers. I'll tell you one guy that I really think the Niners will bring back, even though I don't expect him to be a high-priced item. I could see them going for Solomon Thomas. I could see them bring back Solomon Thomas. Just not a big money, but just because I think I could see Solomon being willing to play in a rotation off the bench.
Yeah.
John says C.J. Gardner-Johnson as a nickel would be fire.
It'd be amazing.
What's the need right now? What is the need? As we're sitting here, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. The Niners are one day into free agency. Would you say are you looking for a particular position? Are you looking for a particular player? What's the primary need? Since defensive tackle was my number one need, what do you think? What's number two? Do you go after trying to bring back Jimmy Ward? Do you go after a C.J. Gardner-Johnson? Do you try to trade for a Brian Burns? Do you go after a Clowney? I mean, if Raj, who's got 10,000 subs on YouTube on a channel that started when?
We've been doing this for like 8 months now,
Oh, okay. I thought the channel was like 2 months old.
No, we've been doing, well, it was growing, and then my page got terminated from YouTube for a while, but they realized they made a mistake. I had to appeal it. So they took my page for whatever reason. They were like, you're impersonating someone. I was like, I'm being myself. So I had to write an appeal. So for like a whole month, I lost my page. So, I mean, on and off for the last 7 to 8 months. Yeah.
So what in your mind, do you want an elite center? You want a corner? You want a free safety? You want a nickel? You want a offensive tackle? You want to bring back Jimmy Ward?
I mean, I love Jimmy Ward. I love the corners, but we talked about it before. Trenches. I want either one or two options. You go get me a quality edge rusher. Defense is going to be set for life. Although I think they already addressed their big splash on defense. I'd be happy if you get an edge rusher. But I think now you pivot over to the offensive line and you go make a money move. Whether it be a premium center, whether it be a premium right tackle, go get someone that's going to make this line elite. You got an elite O-line or D-line, make your O-line elite. That's my move. Go fortify the trenches 1,000,000,000%. I mean, I love some of these guys. Gardner-Johnson would be a cool pick, but he's not going to do anything in terms of your offensive line, protecting the young quarterback like we just said. So if I got a move to make, it's either O-line, get a premium guy there, or go get another pass rusher like Yannick Ngakoue or someone like that. Because then the defense is just going to give you nightmares and nobody's stopping you. And his defense is going to be so good. So That's my move. Yeah, Gardner Johnson would be cool. All those guys would be nice. Jimmy Ward, I love him. But we brought back Deshaun Gibson. You got your veteran. I'm good with what we have in terms of the secondary. We got some really good young players. I like Diamondo Lenore. I like Womack. I like Mooney Ward. I think we're good. Maybe you can bring back Emmanuel Mosley. But honestly, if we're going to go and make one big move, you either give me a premium edge rusher or you go get that right tackle spot set up.
I'm reading this on Twitter. McGlinchey to the Bears for $17.4 million as far as AAV. Garoppolo gets $22.5 million AAV from the Raiders. The 49ers are now in line to gain at least one third-round compensatory pick next year. Hargrave's contract will cancel out Garoppolo's contract. So there you go. I mean, that we kind of just stated that earlier that, you know, I don't want to lose Jimmy. I don't want to lose Jimmy. Jimmy. Do you want the rookies and Hargrave, or do you want Jimmy and no Hargrave? That was really it. Bobby D says bring back Emmanuel Mosley. You know, I kind of in my head already see Mosley coming back because Bosa referenced that a week ago.
Yeah.
What do you think of this one? Jack Hammer says that there's a rumor that the Niners are interested in Zardarius Smith from the Minnesota Vikings, the edge rusher, the former Packer.
Yeah, I heard that bounce around the last couple of days. People were saying if, Vikings release him, would you pick him up? I wouldn't hate it. But if I think there's a better option. I think if they had a choice between players, I'd go Yannick Ngakoue over Za'Darius Smith. Would I hate bringing in Smith? No, because you're going to do exactly what I just said, is go fortify your defensive line and get a premium pass rusher. Would I hate it? No. But I think there's a better option, and that's Yannick Ngakoue.
To me, Leonard Floyd's the guy because you know why? Because, in this, you mentioned how Parag and the Niners kind of have this compensatory thing down. The Niners were awarded the most compensatory picks of any team in the NFL this year. Yeah. They understand the equation. I believe because Leonard Floyd was a cap casualty that he is not, he's not part of that equation. So you don't lose like any points or any momentum towards compensatory selections if you sign him as opposed to some of the other free agents, because he was not a free agent. He was a cap casualty. So that's the guy that I would go get. I think you put Leonard Floyd opposite Bosa with Floyd's ability to get the edge and the speed. I think he could have a phenomenal Raj. I'm thinking 3 years of Leonard Floyd opposite Bosa. He could put up 35 sacks in those 3 years.
That's not a bad option. I do like Floyd. That's a nice little stat you got there, man. Because he was restricted. He comes off. He wouldn't take a cap casualty. You wouldn't,
because he was a cap casualty.
Yeah,
and not a free agent. He doesn't count in the equation for compensatory picks. So you could sign him, and you're still at like whatever you were at before.
Oh, man.
So like, let's say you let guys go. You let Ridgeway go. You let Aziz go. You're getting compensatory picks back from those guys. But if you can replace them with non-compensatory free agents or trades or draft picks, now your compensatory thing goes more in your favor, and you could wind up in 2024 with, 5 or 6 picks extra. And to me, I mean, I was looking at the Niners. I think they have about a dozen needs coming into this year, from third quarterback to kicker and everything in between. They got about a dozen needs. Well, they have 11 draft picks, Raj, 11. And they just signed Hargrave, and they're going to sign other free agents. So they have the ability, if they had to go into the draft and maybe fill almost every single one of their needs via the draft if they chose to. So yeah, I think that's a very advantageous position to be in. And you got to credit Parag, and, Parag gets a lot of criticism for this and that, but I think Parag has, been a huge value to the Niners as far as draft day trades. I think he's really good at canvassing the league, but also in helping them set up, their formula for, what free agents to pursue, what free agents to retain. I think the Niners are doing it about as well as it's being done in the league right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They do such a good job of, like we said, developing talent, making sure that they have just getting to talent evaluation. We talk about Adam Peters. We talk about Parag. We got to mention Adam Peters in the same breath, because those two guys, Parag gets the money, the contract, he makes everything happen. And then you got Adam Peters, whose scouting is second to none. I mean, you find the guy like George Kittle in the 5th round, Dre Greenlaw, and, the players that they get. And that's exactly it. You can lose players, and, you're going to get these compensatory picks. They know how to work the system where they can get these compensatory picks. They lose coaches, they lose players, they load up, and then they can replace their younger their veterans with younger players that eventually become a starter in 2-3 years down the line. And they're cheaper options. You're paying a guy that's an undrafted player that works his way up the system, a couple $100,000 compared to a couple $1 million, and they're very quality players. Like we said with Aziz Al-Shahir, he was an undrafted player, and now the writing's on the wall. Okay, we don't want to pay him this $10 million he's probably going to get somewhere. Let's go bring in McCrary Ball, who's a undrafted free agent, and he's probably going to put up the same type of numbers, maybe a little decline a little bit, but he'll still be a solid player to replace him. He's undrafted. You save tons of money, and that's exactly what the 49ers do. So shout out to them. 11 picks in the draft. I mean, I don't know if they'll be able to sign them all, but at least they'll have a good group of guys they can put on the practice squad. They can develop. They can maybe get a guy that can be a day one starter, here and there. Spencer Burford, 4th-round pick last year. He was a starting right guard all year. That's amazing value, and they're paying him pennies on the dollar to what you might be paying one of these other guys. And then in 3 years, when his contract's up, okay, we'll let you walk. You go get your $1 million. We'll get the next 4th-round lineman to replace you. So 49ers stay ahead of everybody. They play money ball in a way. They kind of know how to just work the system. They're so smart. They're kind of like the Oakland A's were a couple years back when they had the money ball strategy where they bring in players. They had a phenomenal, robust farm league. And, okay, he's gone. Let's bring up the next guys. And it's just like, wow, how much young talent do the 49ers have? That's what they do. And they do it better than anybody. But it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Scotch says also retaining Adam Peters was huge. He's very good with late round drafting. Hey, Raj, we're going to let you go. What do you got cooking the rest of the day? I mean, obviously you're blowing up on YouTube. You're obviously a monster on the IG. I know you're doing chiropractor work as well. So you got the dual career. What do you think?
Rest of the day, man, I'm just going to be refreshing my phone, looking for all the news. I'll be live a little later, breaking down more stuff. Just going to be staying by the phone all day, waiting for the news to drop, and talking with everybody and getting everybody through their day, man. Just I'm excited as everybody else. So we're going to be staying tuned and seeing what all the rest of the news and everything is. So appreciate you as always, Larry. Always a fun time, man. Let's hope we get some more big signings, Larry.
Oh, no doubt. Hey, Raj, we'll let you go. Appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day.
Yes, sir. You too, man. Appreciate it as always, Larry. Have a good one.
Do it again soon. Raj, the great Raj. We'll hit the chat here in just a second. This one's pretty good. Welbert Campos, Davante Adams is not happy on his IG with the Garoppolo deal. Take a look, Larry. Whew. Well, Davante went to Las Vegas to play with his college buddy, Derek Carr. Now Carr's in New Orleans and Jimmy G's there. But, man, an unhappy Davante Adams is never a good thing. All right, let's do a couple thoughts here, and then we'll come back and hit the chat. Special thanks to the sponsor of today's show, New York Style Italian Sausage. Phenomenal product, whether it's the breakfast sausage, the Italian mild, the Italian spicy. I love me some New York Style Italian sausage. And now one more word from New York Style Italian Sausage.
So New York Style Sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never going to deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it. Hands down.
Hey, do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York Style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
All right, welcome back. Also, big thanks to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics for being a sponsor of the show today. If you hurt your shoulder or elbow on the weekend, you don't want to go to the hospital, you don't want to go to a urgent care, but man, you want to rehabilitate yourself somehow, some way, and you're not sure how, check out this resource, telmetrics.co, TELMETRIX.co. All right, welcome back. Also, thanks to our title sponsor, Pig in a Pickle. Check them out in Emeryville and in Corte Madera, the best barbecue in Northern California. All right, let's hit the chat and see what people are chatting about. And of course, it's a lot of Niners stuff. How do you feel about what the Niners have done? How do you feel about what they ought to do next? Yaffe says 49ers have let teams know that Javon Kinlaw is on the trade block. All right. What is that going to mean? I think they're going to have to attach either another player or a pick to move Javon. But absolutely, I said it at the end of the year. Somebody asked me, what's going to happen with Javon Kinlaw? I said, he is going to be traded. Why? Because I don't believe that he's a strong presence in the room. They're not going to leave him in the room as a backup, as a guy who rarely plays. I don't think that's going to be good for their locker room. And I'm pretty sure that they're going to move off of Javon Kinlaw. Now, what are they going to get in return? I think you could probably get exactly what he is. He's a first round pick who has been disappointing, and they haven't picked up the 5th-year option. So go look for another player in that same draft whose team, hasn't picked up their 5th-year option, and maybe see if you can swap them. The one that makes the most sense to me would be if you could swap Kinlaw to Miami for Noah Igbenogany, their young corner, who also didn't have his 5th-year option picked up. Niners are looking for athletes and bodies and competition on the corner. You can never have enough good corners. They don't really need Kinlaw. To me, a Kinlaw for Igbenogany swap would be great. If you can turn Kinlaw and a pick into something better than that, do it. But I think it's going to be very difficult to get. If you said to me, what round pick could the Niners get for Kinlaw? I would say maybe a 5th. And that's optimistic. Probably more like a 6th. Bomber T says Davante Adams is trying to get traded. Wow. Wow. How about that? Wayne Breezy. Hey, Wayne, how are you, How are you, man? He says, Davante Adams said, if we haven't talked in the last 3 weeks, don't hit me up about this shit. Thanks. Wow. Seems unhappy. I'll take Davante Adams in a second. I'll take Davante Adams. Suddenly the Niners would be quite a bit better in the red zone if they had Davante Adams. I mean, you throw in the accuracy of a Brock Purdy, let's just say, and the route running ability and hands and ball skills of a Davante Adams, and wow, that could be something. G. Martinez says, Larry, we bet in the Warriors tonight, triple revenge, and it's time they get one, right? I'm in Niner mode today. I'll watch the Warrior game. We'll be on after tonight talking about it. Wayne Breezy and I both agree that I think he's talking about. He says, I agree with you, John Wardle. He's my favorite safety in this draft. He's the dog we need in the dog pound. Now I just got to go to @John Wardle and see what John Wardle says. What's he saying? Got to chase this down. I'm not sure who John Wardle. I think it's probably about C.J. Gardner-Johnson, because I know Wayne and I both like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. We got this one from Todd, who's a member. He says, I wish Jimmy luck in Vegas too, especially when they play the Chiefs twice a year and the Broncos twice a year. Yeah, exactly. It's Todd throwing in a little college hoop. He said, go Terps and Auburn in March Madness. I got to watch the selection show. Drove 13 hours back from Scottsdale yesterday. 13 hours. So today, the quick turnaround for NFL free agency, but we did it yesterday, the drive, so that we could do this today. Kinlaw, or Eric says, Kinlaw's on the hot seat. Gabriel says, Darnold is something happened with Sam Darnold? Let's check out that. Did Sam Darnold go somewhere? I'll look that one up. People are now talking about Sam Darnold in the chat. Let's check out, see if Sam Darnold, any news on Sam Darnold. I'm not a huge Sam Darnold fan, to be totally honest. But I know there are a number of people that really like Sam Darnold and think that he's a significant player, and has upside. We got this one. LZ says Darnold is a solid backup. Clarsard said, I'll take Darnold. Blank says Sam Darnold, Kyle don't like running quarterbacks. Oh, here we go. LZ, Sam Darnold just signed to San Francisco. Okay, so now that is interesting. That is interesting. Why? Because we talked about this the other day. Now we're seeing it. Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold. We got this one. King of Hearts. Darnold is better than Josh. Here we go. Here's the official word from Greg Stillwell. Thank you, Greg. Adam Schefter, at Adam Schefter. 49ers reached agreement on a one-year deal with former Panthers quarterback Sam Darnold, per source. Oh, my God. That's amazing. We got this one from Gerardo. Krueg, still the best cheers from Toronto, Canada. Love your show. Thank you, Gerardo. Gerardo, maybe? Sorry about that if I butchered that. How do I feel about Sam Darnold? Well, is he hearing ghosts? Remember that one when he was playing for the Jets and they were playing the Patriots, and the mic caught him saying he's seeing ghosts. Let's take a look at Sam Darnold's numbers. Sam Darnold this last year completed 58% of his passes, 7 touchdowns, 3 picks. That's what he did this year. Threw for 1,100 yards. He has basically thrown, the last couple of years, I mean, it just hasn't been good. There's a lot of picks. I mean, the one thing about Sam Darnold, going back to SC, he throws a lot of freaking picks. He's got 61 touchdowns in his NFL career. He's got 55 interceptions. And he's been sacked a ton. 30 times, 33 times, 35 times, 35 times. This year he got sacked 10 times in 6 games. Here's the reason why it's interesting. He's 25. He's 6'3". He's 225 pounds. He was once thought to be, a top-tier quarterback who went at the top of the draft. Now, here's the question I would have. Sam Darnold is probably, he's a number 2 quarterback who could be a number 1. Is he a number 3 quarterback? Is he sunk to that level? Is it going to be Brock and Trey and Sam? Or is it going to be Brock and Sam and Trey gets traded? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. But I mentioned this the other day. I did a whole video on this about how if the Niners, John Lynch sounded at the combine like they were going to trade Trey Lance. To me, I don't know what anybody else thought of that, but that's what I got out of that. Trey, the quote was, Trey needs to play, which I agree with, and I've been saying for weeks. And that's the challenge, because we've got a team that's ready to go now. So that sounds to me like he's not ready to play now. And since he needs to play, saying a player needs to play and then creating a scenario where it's impossible for him to play now makes me think that you're going to trade him. What I heard from John Lynch there was exactly, to a word, what the Warriors said about James Wiseman a month ago. James Wiseman, by the way, if you're not a Warrior fan, is now in Detroit playing with the Pistons and doing quite well. But the question is, when John said Trey's got to play and we got a team that's ready to win now, that sounds like we're preparing everybody for the reality that they're going to trade Trey Lance. That's what I got out of that. Otherwise, why is it a problem? Trey's got to play. You only have Brock on your roster. He's the only other quarterback you got. So if Trey's got to play, why is that a challenge? The implication is Trey's got to play and he's not ready to play. And we don't have the time to invest in him to get him ready to play because we have a team that's ready to win now. That's what I got out of that. And what was my takeaway? My takeaway was the third quarterback will tell us something. If the third quarterback is a starter or a solid, maybe borderline starter, solid number 2, and I throw out Baker Mayfield, but you could throw you could throw Sam Darnold in that same category. then that to me is another indication they may move Trey Lance. So I don't know. I don't know how to read this, but if you told me, based on what I saw John Lynch say, I think Trey Lance is going to be traded. And then the fact that they've now signed a third string quarterback who was a top 5 pick and is only 25. And at best, I think, or at worst, you'd have to say Sam Darnold's a number 2. You could say that Sam Darnold is a borderline 1/2. Like, everybody's got an inherent truth about what they are. I think, some guys, like if you said they signed Easton Stick, I would have said, yep, they're keeping Trey. He's a third string quarterback. They have Brock, they have Trey. Now they have Easton Stick. Those are their 3 quarterbacks. And that's what they're going with. If they had gone with, I was talking to Jordan Elliott the other day. He said Joe Flacco. I said, who's the ideal third quarterback? He said Joe Flacco. And I know before you start ripping on Jordan Elliott, I kind of like that idea. Joe Flacco's experience, got a big arm. He played decently at times. But that is a kind of quarterback that says Brock's your 1, Trey's your 2, or Trey's your 1, Brock's your 2, and Joe Flacco's a clear number 3. That's an indication that Trey's staying. But to me, what John Lynch said in Indy, followed up by Sam Darnold's acquisition today, just cements my belief that they're going to trade Trey Lance. And I'm worried about that because I think Trey Lance is going to be good. And I've said that over and over and over again. But I also think that Trey Lance is going to be good in the future. Like I watch Trey and I see, how raw he is throwing the football, and how raw he is in several aspects of the game, but especially his touch, timing, and feel as a passer. Forget the running for a second. Just strictly talk about Trey as a passer. I think he lacks touch. I think he lacks timing. I think he lacks feel. I think his ball is heavy and wobbly and difficult to catch. He's the opposite of Brock Purdy in that Brock Purdy throws the most catchable ball I think I've seen since Joe Montana. No, there's not a lot of snap in his arm motion. He's got a very smooth arm motion, throws a consistent spiral, puts it on the hands. He throws a very catchable ball. He's not throwing it 100 miles an hour. It's just right there. Good timing, good tempo, good feel, good accuracy. Trey, I see the opposite. I see a great kid, smart, athletic, dedicated, wants it. But now let's move all those traits to the side and let's just talk about what we see with our eyes. And I see inaccuracy, high-speed wobbles, a guy who throws, he's a one-speeded thrower. Everything comes out rocket fast. The drops that he had were, maybe some are on the receivers, but a lot are on him. So I see a guy who needs to be defined, I see a guy that needs to be refined, I should say. Refined. I said defined. He needs to be refined. So there you go. You ask me what this means. I think Trey Lance is getting traded. I really do. I'm not the hugest Sam Darnold fan, but maybe he could be rehabilitated to some degree in this system. Maybe he could be, you play with these weapons. I think he could be a serviceable, solid number 2, borderline number 1. But I don't think of him as a third string guy. I mean, he's made 56 starts in the NFL. That's a lot of games. His completion percentage first year was 57%. It went to 61, 59 in year 3, 59 in year 4, 58 in year 5. So he's not a high completion percentage guy, and he throws a ton of picks, and he takes a lot of sacks. So how do I feel about Sam Darnold? I don't like him. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I like guys I don't like. I don't like him. I don't think much of him. I think he's stiff. I think he's he takes too many chances with the football. I don't think he's overly mobile. I don't like him. Now, obviously Shanahan does, and Shanahan can try to develop him. We'll see how it goes. But I definitely think that he is a backup quarterback in the NFL. but I don't know about if he's a third string quarterback. Third string quarterback would have been somebody he's either old or really young, somebody who's not, been a 1 or a 2, but more of a 2 or a 3. And to sit there and say, Sam Darnold's going to come in and sit behind Brock and sit behind Trey and be the third quarterback, I don't see it. I think they're going to trade Trey. I think they're going to trade Trey on draft day for a mid-first round pick and a player. And I do think Trey will fetch that. And you say, where do I think he's going? I think he's going to Tennessee. He's going to Tennessee for the 11th pick in the draft and fill in your young veteran. Maybe the tight end or from Maryland, maybe the corner from Auburn, McCreary, I should say. I could see that, and then and that's what I would do. I mean, if you say, what would you do? That's what I would do. Because to me, I would rather add a player you're ready to win now. Debo, Ayuk, Bosa, Warner, this awesome collection of players. You just signed Hargrave. He's 30. You're ready to win now, right now. You're not going to be better in 5 years. You're now. It's right now. So what does that mean? Get me a player that can help me win right now. What I would want to do is I would trade to Tennessee for that 11th pick and McCreary, the corner, and I would draft Michael Mayer. Because every draft that I've seen has Mayer going between 15 and 20. And if you get the 11th pick, you probably can get him. He's as good a tight end as I've seen in a long time. I mean, I've watched tons of Notre Dame. That guy is the real deal. If you can add a Michael Mayer, now you got a 2 tight end set of George Kittle, Michael Mayer. You've got Debo, Ayuk, Jennings. You've got, an improved defense. Yeah, that's how I want to win the Super Bowl. Go get me Michael Mayer. Why? Because Brock Purdy was awesome throwing to the tight end in college, and look what happened to George Kittle after the arrival of Brock Purdy in the starting lineup. He took off. George Kittle is the best tight end in pro football with Brock Purdy. He's way, 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 way better than he was before Brock Purdy because of Purdy's ability to find him and hit him in the middle of the field. So that's what I would do. I would trade, I don't love Sam Darnold, but clearly Sam Darnold is a 1/2, a 2/1. He's not a third string quarterback. I'd be very surprised if it was Brock and Trey and Sam. I think it's Brock and Sam and maybe a rookie and Trey somewhere else and probably for a first round draft choice. People would be, oh, come on, you're not getting a first round draft choice for Trey. I disagree. I think you are. Maximiliano says Trey on the move. I believe so. Brandon Simmons, trade coming or incoming. I believe so. Mark Lopez, Larry, call me crazy, but how would you feel about Kyle Pitts for Trey Lance straight up? Love it. Kidding me? Yes, I would do that in a second. Like, boom, done. John B says Trey's the starter. E Sneaker finds his Sam is the third string quarterback. I don't know. To me, I just gave you my breakdown on it. We got another one. John B again. Trey is the starter, this time in caps. Bomber T. They might be trading Trey. Yeah. It's funny. There was a discussion the other day on 95.7, and it was James Wiseman, Trey Lance, and Joey Bart. Which of those guys do you believe in? Great little radio segment, right? They're all going to be traded. That's my prediction. Giants are going to trade Joey Bart. The Niners are going to trade Trey Lance, and James Wiseman's already traded. That's how that's going to go. I really believe that, especially after being in Niner camp. I get the feeling that they're going to trade Joey Bart. Maximiliano says a first for Trey. I think you can. I think you can get a first for Trey. It's about supply and demand. Look at the way these teams are going crazy at the top of the draft trying to angle for a quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have shit in the NFL. If you don't have a quarterback and you're a head coach, you're on the verge of being fired. If you don't have a quarterback and you're a general manager, you're going to be fired. Everybody knows it. You got to have a quarterback. There's no such thing as, remember that team that had the horrible quarterback that won the Super Bowl? No, I don't. In fact, the only non-Hall of Fame superstar quarterbacks that win the Super Bowl is like one a decade. Nick Foles and Jeff Hostetler and Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer. And they either had just an awesome defense or, I don't know what they had, but you got to have a quarterback. You got to have a quarterback. And if I'm Rand Carthon, it's the beginning of my regime, and I've got broken Ryan Tannehill. I've got Malik Willis, who somebody else picked, and I've got a guy who I really believe in as a person in Trey Lance. If I'm Rand Carthon, I get Trey Lance in the building, and I give him time, and I develop him slowly, and 3 years from now, I may have a quarterback that's ready to run with Mahomes and Allen and all the best, top-tier quarterbacks in the AFC. I mean, think about it this way. If you're an AFC team, you better take a big swing on a quarterback that has traits. Why? Because you're going up. Look at the quarterbacks in that conference. You're going to go to the goal is to go to the Super Bowl. How are you going to the Super Bowl and beating out Joe Burrow if you have some ridiculous quarterback? You're not beating Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. You're not beating all these badasses in the AFC unless you have a quarterback who also has off-schedule ability, freakish arm talent, freakish mobility. That's Trey. And Trey's got it all wrapped up in a person that's a great person. And Rand knows this because he knows Trey. So is Trey ready to dominate the NFL today? No. But guess what? It's coming. It's coming. It's going to take some time. But I agree with John Lynch. I agree with everything John Lynch said. Trey's got to play. And that's the challenge because the Niners are ready to win now. And the implication is clear. And if you ignore it, you're ignoring the obvious. The implication is clear. Trey's got to play. I said it the other day. Been saying it for a month. Trey's got to play. If I'm Trey's mom, if I'm Trey's dad, if I'm Trey's agent, Trey, I don't care what, you can't sit anymore. You need to play. Whether it's Brock standing in front of you or Tannehill, you need to be on the field playing. The Niners are like, hey, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have a very clear mandate. Win the 6th Lombardi for the Niners. That's their mandate. Win the 6th Lombardi. They're not wed. What are they wed to? That's what they're wed to. Win the 6th Lombardi trophy. They're not wed to any individual quarterback's development. Yeah, they made a big trade up to get Trey, but what are they wed to? What are they tied to? What are they committed to? Winning the 6th Lombardi. They got a vision of how to do that this year with Brock Purdy. They're going with Brock Purdy. I don't think there's any question about it. Peter King said it's not even a tough call. They're going with Brock Purdy. And they're going to build up a team that has a killer running game and a badass defense, and they're going to try to win with Brock Purdy. So what does that mean? That means that third quarterback is going to define what's going to happen with Trey. And I said it a week or a month, 2-3 weeks ago. They get a true number one or anybody who's even remotely tied to number one status. They're moving off of Trey, and they're going to trade him for something good. And now, sure enough, today, Sam Darnold. So I guess theoretically it's possible they could have Brock and Trey and Sam. I don't see that. I don't. I really don't. I think they're going to wind up trading Trey. I think Lynch told us as much. And then what did Lynch double down on? He didn't double down on Trey as a passer. He didn't double down on Trey as a runner. He didn't double down on Trey's skill set. He doubled down on what? We really love Trey as a person. Of course you do, because he's a great person. We really love Trey's, character and makeup. Of course you do, because his makeup's off the charts. who he is absolutely why you love him. It's why I loved him as a prospect coming out, because when you're trying to figure out these quarterbacks, it's all about getting to the essence of the person and the player. The essence of Trey Lance is he is a second-generation pro football player who's smart and tough and committed to being a good quarterback. But I think the Niners have gotten a glimpse at this now, and they realize it's going to take bumps in the road and 2 or 3 rough years of development. Definitely. I mean, maybe I'm wrong by that. Maybe my estimate's off. Maybe it's not going to take 2 or 3 years of development. Maybe it's going to take 2 or 3 months of development. Either way, they don't have time for it. Either way, they're not going to look Trent Williams in the eye and say, "Hey, Trent, guess what? I know this might be your last year in the NFL, but 2 years from now, we think Trey might be able to win us a Super Bowl." How's that going to play? That's not going to play with Trent. And to be honest, Lynch is in a hurry. Shanahan's impatient. Jed's impatient. They should be. They've been sitting there on the doorstep of a championship. They're now looking at a conference where the Eagles are the only competition, and the Eagles are hemorrhaging on the cap and are about to give Jalen Hurts $50 million, and they're going to wind up kissing off most of their core. So the Niners are in position to dominate the NFC and go to the Super Bowl next year. But they got to have a quarterback. They got to have a quarterback who's ready to play. And I think they're going to wind up trading Trey for a first-round pick. That's my feel. That's my read on it. Mikey, or what was it? Mikey says Trey is so disrespected. I don't think he's disrespected. I just think that people were in an instant gratification society, and the gratification that he's going to bring is deferred, and nobody's going to want to wait for that to happen. And I say nobody here. Rand Carthon just signed in Tennessee. He's probably got a 4 or 5 year deal. He's got 2 years to invest in Trey Lance and the development. And that's what Trey needs. Trey needs a solid organization with a winning coach and a winning GM, and where he can play and develop and learn over the next 2 years. And if he can find that, that's going to be somewhere that he potentially 3 years from now, he can compete with the Mahomeses and the Allens and Burrows and give Tennessee a major seat at the table. So if you ask me, and Tennessee makes sense. It's the other conference. You get him into a different spot. You hand him to a general manager that believes in him. I think it makes sense. Hendricks says trading Lance would be a mistake. Yeah, it very well could be. But the Niners are about the here and the now. John B says Trey is not getting traded. All right, there you go. From John B, everybody. This guy, Larry, you say trade Trey a lot and have before, LOL. Yeah, because the Niners are ready to win, and he needs to play and develop. And usually when young quarterbacks have to develop, that means they're not going to win. And if the Niners put Trey Lance on the field and go 9-8 for the next couple of years, or it's up and down and he doesn't, and they all of a sudden Trent Williams is no longer in playing, and Kittle and Bosa and Debo and these guys are now no longer, they could miss their Super Bowl window if they don't aggressively compete for a Super Bowl next year, the year after that. They don't have 2 years to invest in Trey's development on the field. But Lynch is also right. He's got it crystallized perfectly. Trey needs to play. And that's what and when he was talking to us, in reality, he was talking to the rest of the league. We just happened to hear it as 49er fans, but he wasn't talking to us. He was talking to other GMs. He was saying, guys, I love this player. Don't think you're going to come here and offer me a 5th round pick and have me hand him to you. That ain't happening. We love this kid. We love this kid as a player. We believe in him as a kid. We believe in him as a player. But we're ready to win right now. And he needs to play to develop. So that's my read. And that's been my read. So I know here's the thing on this one. I thought I was right when I said it initially. I know I'm right now. I absolutely know I'm right. Todd says, I said go with Marcus Mariota as well. Yeah, I love Mariota, But you know what? Maybe my love for Mariota was based on the fact that he kicked the Niners' ass last year in Atlanta and completed 94% of his passes and was awesome. But even a Mariota pickup kind of makes me think, oh, they're going to stay with Trey because at least Mariota's similar skill sets to Trey, and I could see them playing, Mariota a little bit more this first year, but then showing Trey kind of the template of what they want him to eventually emerge into. Because the way Mariota played against the Niners in Atlanta last year is exactly the way that Trey Lance needs to be utilized. And if he is, there's a lot of the same traits that Jalen Hurts gave Philly that Trey's going to give whatever team he's on, which is it's going to be much more difficult to defend the run game when you have a quarterback keeper option, you have a quarterback who can run. But then when you watch Trey run, he's not Lamar. He's not Michael Vick. He's not. He's athletic. He's big, but he's not a runner like that. He's not dynamic. He's not making people miss. He's not going to juke anybody. He's not going to beat you to the edge. No, he's not. He's not getting to the edge. So it's, I don't know. That's Sarkis. Trey is not getting traded. There's a lot of people. It's going to be very interesting if this does happen. The number of people that are going to have to backpedal on that. Michael Taylor, Larry is spot on. Signing Darnold right now tells me Lance will be traded any minute. And yep, same vibes from Lynch that Myers gave out right when Wiseman was dealt. Yeah. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, don't misunderstand me. When I say Trey's getting traded, I'm not banishing him. There's some guys that I'd like to see traded from my favorite teams. And I'm like, I don't care where they go. Just trade his ass. Get him out of here. Go. See ya. Get lost. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the Niners timeline and Trey's timeline don't jive. And having Trey as this incredibly valuable backup quarterback who's raw and needs to play as on your bench sitting behind Purdy, that doesn't jive. Doesn't work. What does work, as helping you win the Super Bowl, is if you traded him to Tennessee for the 11th pick and took Michael Mayer. Now you've got Kittle and Mayer in the red zone in the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy throwing strikes. Go defend that. That's what I would be about. I'm not into taking chances. No more risk taking, no more chance taking. Let's go for the sure thing. Michael Mayer is going to be a stud. He's going to be a Pro Bowl. He's some combination of Kittle and Kelsey and Gronk. Lock it up. One of the safest picks I've seen in the NFL draft in years. Forget low risk. It's no risk. This kid is blue chip beyond blue chip. You put him next to Kittle, you run the 2 tight end set in the red zone, and you've got an accurate quarterback like Brock who throws with anticipation. Good luck defending that. That's what I would do. That's the move I would make. Todd Labor. Lance might get traded to Minnesota. I mean, that would be great for Trey to be in Minnesota. He's from Marshall, Minnesota. I mean, it would be absolutely fantastic. Though I do believe that it's not, they're not going to just deal. They're going to try to put him in a spot. They're going to try to put him in a spot that's advantageous for him. Maybe in his backyard, maybe in a good organization, maybe in an organization that believes in him. But they're not going to trade him to some outpost. They're going to trade him, but they're going to trade him to somewhere where he can develop. Only thing about the Vikings is that's in the conference. Khalil Young. Trey is not getting traded. All right, there you go. I want to save all these people who say he's not getting traded, and I'd love you guys all to be back if and when it happens. Believe me, if I'm wrong, I own it. Anybody knows me knows that's the case. If I'm right, you own it. This guy says they trade Trey with Brock injured, not 100, knowing when he's coming back. So down to one quarterback, make it make sense. No, I hear you. But it seems like the Niners feel a lot more confident about Brock's rehab than everybody else. Seems like the fans are more nervous about it. Every time I hear Shanahan and Lynch talk about it, they're like, "Yep, he'll be back at this time, and this is how it's going to go." Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But you got to remember this: there's an entire draft out there, and there's a bunch of good day 3 picks in the draft. So you could find another player in the draft as well at quarterback, and they probably will. They've got 11 picks. My concern is I think this could look bad long term. Not because nobody's going to care. If Brock Purdy wins a Super Bowl, nobody's going to care. But what if Trey Lance becomes Brett Favre? It's possible. Brett Favre got drafted by Atlanta. Kenny Herrock traded him to Ron Wolf in Green Bay. And that guy Favre was pretty good after that. I don't know if Kenny Herrock was around too much longer after that in Atlanta. I mean, Kenny Herrock, do you think he wanted to make that trade? He's been answering for that the rest of his life. You're the guy who traded Brett Favre. Hi, how you doing? I'm Kenny Herrock. I'm the guy who traded Brett Favre. And Kenny's a respected personnel guy and is. So I don't know, but that's my read on it. You ask me what my read is. That's my read. Brock's your 1, Darnold's your 2, draft pick is your 3, Trey is in Tennessee, Michael Mayer is here. Bomber T says Trey is totally raw and unknown. See, my concern is that if you trade Trey, what if his ramp up is more like 2 months? What if he's suddenly like Mahomes in like 2 months? Then you're going to look really bad. You're going to look really bad because you had him. It's kind of like the Warriors right now. Every time James Wiseman goes for 13 and 12 and 2 blocks or whatever and looks good in Detroit, people are like, oh my God. Got a backup defensive 2 guard for this 21-year-old center who's now going to wreak havoc for the next 2 decades. But there's other people who don't believe that James Wiseman has any real feel and will never really win. To me, that's ridiculous. It's just a matter of time. Just a matter of time for James Wiseman. Hendrick says Trey is QB1. Tyler says Lance is not being traded this year. You're all insane. First of all, it's not you all. It's me. I'm the one who's saying it. Don't blame these people in the chat. Blame me. I'm the guy who's saying it. And I'm only saying it not because I'm rooting for it. I'm saying it because if I had to win the Super Bowl in the next 3 years, which is kind of, I think, where the Niners are as a franchise, they've tasted the NFC Championship game. They've tasted losing in the Super Bowl. It's time for the fucking 6th Lombardi Trophy. They haven't won a Super Bowl since 1994. There's kids walking around who are 30 freaking years old who have never seen the 49ers win a Super Bowl. It's time to win one. So this whole we're going for it now, but we're going for it in the future. We got this guy for today and that guy for tomorrow. Forget tomorrow. Let's pour it all into today. That's what the Rams did, and they're wearing a ring. The Niners haven't made that commitment, and the Niners also proven that they can I like the Niners' way of building more than the Rams. The Rams went for like 6 or 7 of the best players in football, and now they're in cap hell, and they're paralyzed on the cap for the next 3-4 years. The Niners have gone with depth and day 3 picks and undrafted free agents, and the Niners are stacked and loaded. I mean, and they have a system that they can replicate, and they've got a roster that they can continue to restock every year. So they're loaded and they're gonna be loaded. But they also have a really, really valuable backup quarterback. And all I'm saying is that's probably a luxury that they can't afford. A really, really valuable backup quarterback is probably that's probably a waste. It's probably a waste. Now, obviously this year they needed all 4 quarterbacks. Maybe they, regardless of who they get at quarterback, they better bolster their offensive line, right? Otherwise, that person's going to be running for their life, and we're going to be seeing Sam Darnold or some rookie or whatever at quarterback. But the way Lynch talked and the kind of quarterback that Sam Darnold is, maybe you guys think that Sam Darnold's a number 3. I don't. I think he's at least he might be a number 3 in my opinion, but I think in his mind, he's a starter or a backup, and he's coming here to be the 3rd string guy. Nah, I don't buy that. Now, maybe Sam Darnold's at a point in his career where he's just like, I don't care what first, second, third, just get me in that Shanahan offense. Get me on the West Coast throwing to in this offense, throwing to these weapons, and I'll take my chance. Take my chances on how it all shakes out. That's possible. But even then, I still think there's too much. If I'm one of these teams in the league, somebody's going to get Bryce Young. Somebody's going to get Will Levis. Somebody's going to get Stroud out of Ohio State. Somebody's going to get Anthony Richardson. That's 4. But in reality, there's like 12 teams looking for a starter. So what are the other 7 or 8 teams going to do? And you never the supply always is not as good as the demand. I think the Niners are going to get a really good offer for Trey Lance, and I think they're going to take it. That's my guess. Niner guy for life said Steve Wilkes went to bat for Sam Darnold. That's his guess. It's possible. That is interesting. That is a very interesting point, Niner guy. Americ Masters says Sam Darnold is better at QB3 over Josh Johnson. All right. I like Josh, and I like Josh's agent. And you know what? I already said too many negative things at the end of the year about Josh. I don't want to say any more negative stuff about Josh. I like Josh. I really do. And I like Doug Hendrickson, Josh's agent. So if my frustration at the end of the season ender loss in Philly bled over into me attacking Josh, I want to take it back because I like Josh. If you watch me on YouTube, if you go to my interview, I did a Josh, you can see how fond I am of Josh. We've got some common friends. He's a Bay Area guy. He's a salt of the earth human being. I don't want to say anything bad about Josh, but I think we know that they got to have 3 quarterbacks that are ready to roll, 3 quarterbacks that they feel like they can win with. So maybe they are going to keep Trey. San Monfio says Trey is not worth a first rounder. Sam or San? We're betting. Bet you $1. Says he is worth a first round draft choice. Yo Stricken. Darnold is a clear 3. Tyler, a rare Larry L here, I hate to say. All right, we'll see. We got this one from Mark. Darnold equals practice squad. Roberto says, I think Darnold is garbage. 3rd string at best. Bomber T agrees with me. He says Trey's good as gone. So I don't know. It always plays like, people, I've gotten so many people who are like, you're rooting for Trey to be traded. No, I'm not. I want him to be successful. If I was John Lynch, I'd be so afraid to make that trade. I'd be really afraid because I think Trey's got a lot of the traits that you want, and he's going to figure it out. And it may take a year, may take 2. I'd be shocked if it doesn't take at least a year. But I think in a year from now, then what? If you do move him, then what? But I think the Niners' gamble is going to be if they can build a Super Bowl champion, get over the top, and they have young Brock Purdy leading the way, that they will take their chances on what Trey is in the future. The other thing that we don't know is that the one thing that we do know for sure is we know that the Niners know more about Trey than you do, or I do, or anybody that's not inside knows. Why? Because they know him. They're practicing with him. People say, we've only seen him in 4 games. Yeah, you've only seen him in 4 games. They've watched him practice all summer. They've watched him conduct all their drills. They've seen him participate in all the meetings. They know exactly where he's at. They know more than you do. Even if you watch all the games, they know more about where he's at. And you say, well, why would they ever trade Trey? They could trade Trey because they think he needs to play, like I just, threw out there, and they can't play him. They could also trade Trey because they feel like Trey's value is going to go down. that they feel like there's a inherent flaw in his delivery, or they think there's a flaw in his ability as a passer, or they think there's, it's going to take a lot of development and that his value is going to plummet. They know the value they know the value because they're talking to other teams in the league about what they trade for him, but they also know what they think of him and where they think his value is going to go. And I'll say this, if I had an asset and I thought that the asset would go down, I'd be interested in selling it right now. If I had an asset and I thought that asset would go up, I'd be worried about selling that right now. But ultimately it could be one of those things where they think he's going to get really good and be better, but they think they're like me and they think it's going to take 2 years or 3 years and they're not ready to invest. El Camilo Doralo. Larry sounds pissed. Larry's not pissed. Larry just got back from Scottsdale, a little sunburn, as you can tell, a little sunburn. But we had a great time in Scottsdale watching the Giants and hanging out in the desert and getting out of this rain for a few days. We got this one from Brandon. He says, Purdy's our next Steve Young. Okay. We got this guy. He says, Larry's been saying trade for days. LOL, maybe weeks. I have. But it's not because I don't believe in him. It's just because I don't think his timeline jives with their timeline. And I don't think they can just keep him on the bench as the backup. I don't think Trey Lance is an ideal backup for Brock Purdy. I really don't. I think an ideal backup for Brock Purdy is somebody who's played already and can step into it. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick might be an ideal backup for Brock Purdy. Somebody who you can put into a game and you just know he's going to know exactly what to do. And he's played a ton of games. Somebody like that is more of an ideal backup. A young up and coming guy who needs to play. He's a good replacement for Brock if Brock can't go, but he's not a good backup for Brock. Bomber T says Purdy's the starter. Brandon Simmons, Krug, you think we're going to move up and get a tight end in the draft to offset Kittle? I wouldn't worry about position. I just look at dynamic. The draft. I mean, look at the Ravens and the way the Ravens have gone about it. They picked up that Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa, and he was like one of the best centers to come out in years. And did they need a center at the time? Well, not really, I guess. But now they've got a Pro Bowl caliber center because they went for one of the safest draft picks in the entire draft. And to me, that'd be my philosophy if I ran a team. The higher up in the draft, I want sure things. The lower in the draft, I'll take wild stabs. I'll take a shot on some raw talent with all kinds of crazy upside in the 7th round on day 3. But on day 1, I want the total package. I want somebody whose character's off the charts, whose production's off the charts, whose workouts are off the charts. I gotta check every box. I want safe. And Michael Mayer to me is safe. That's safe. That kid's gonna be great. I mean, I'd stake my name to it. I'd be shocked if he wasn't great. El Camilo Dorado, get Larry some beef fat fried chips. Thank you. I'll take some pig in a pickle potato chips cooked in beef fallow. I'll take it right now. Cap hit to trade Trey is huge. Not going to happen. Yeah, there's that. That's the pushback that says they're not going to move him. I think he's going to get moved. I really do. Now, it's possible they won't move him this year. It's possible they would bring in Darnold and go Brock, Trey, Darnold. But within a year, somebody's leaving. They're not keeping Trey and Brock beyond this year for sure. But I think they're probably going to move Trey this year before this year. But I hear you. Roberto. And that's kind of also why I've kind of stopped talking about it for the most part. Because I saw that same thing you saw, which is there's like a $10 million hit. Now, how much of that can be spread out? I don't know. Maybe we get Parag on here and he can explain it to us. Michael Taylor, Lance getting traded. Darnold will start the first couple of games until Brock is back. Even that's kind of scary. Mark Pfeiffer says, I don't think so, Larry. But if you are right, then you duh man. Duh man. Not even a the. I'm a duh. Bomber T. Bomber T, you're with me. I hear you. He says, Larry's dead on. I got to invite Bomber T out to lunch. Two of us can go out and agree. Oh, here's another one. He comes back with Larry knows. And by the way, it's not my burner account. Robert Gibbs says Titans aren't doing that. They should. They freaking should. Have you seen Tannehill and Malik Willis? They absolutely should. I think that would be a fair trade, to be honest. All right. That is going to... Oh, we've got a super chat here from Nicholas Parra. He says, 49ers signings always cause so much conspiracy theories. It's crazy. I think Shanahan doesn't want history repeating itself, but I won't put it past them. This team is unbelievable. You know the great part about being a Niner fan? It's never boring. Never boring. We got this one from Hanso Dope. Hanso Dope? Hanso Dope? Larry and Raj need to be comboed. Great stuff, guys. I love me some Raj, man. Seriously, I mean, everybody's got a different personality that I stream with, whether it be Dave Lombardi or Grant Cohn or Matt Barrows or Kyle Posey or Jordan Elliott, Vish. But they're all freaking great, man. That's why I love doing this. Because Jesse, Ryan Hensley. I mean, seriously, we got the community of Niner, media / content creators is fucking awesome. It's really awesome. I mean, I'm humbled when I see how many great content creators there are covering this 49er team. And guess who wins? You guys. You guys all win. And we do too, because we can collab together. But the Niner fan wins because there's so many different people with different opinions. And I'll say this. We don't coordinate. So I might agree with Grant. My son just sent me a note. He said, you and Grant totally disagree on McGlinchey. And I'm like, yeah, because he doesn't think much of McGlinchey. I do. But, I'd love to hear what Grant has to say about Javon Hargrave. And Grant and I are getting together later today. I'm not sure if it's going to be on my channel, his channel, but we'll look for that. We're going to be getting together later today. As soon as I'm done here, I'm going to call him and we're going to hook that up. Mark Pfeiffer. I don't like what you're saying, Larry. All right. Sorry. Sam Darnold. Our Pete Gorman says, Sam Darnold. I'm not sure what those emojis mean. What else? Darren St. Pierre. Take a breath, Krug. Love you. Seriously. Kind of wrenched my back the other day. I'm feeling a little stiff. I gotta go to the gym and kind of shake out a little bit. Ken Martin. Who's Peter King? Yeah. You never heard of that guy, Pete King? Nicholas Parra. Niners are all in for sure, Larry, just like the 94 Niners. The Hargrave signing proved it. I hope we get number 6 for sure. It's all about number 6. Shanahan knows it. Lynch knows it. Jed knows it. I know it. Those guys are made men in Ninerland if they get this 6th ring. And they all know it. They all know it. T says, Larry, can you stop with the B, bro? We all know that Purdy was your guy. You were the first one to say that he was going to be okay. We understand that now. All right, whatever. If I'm beating you up over, if I'm too much of a told you so, then, what can I say? I apologize. But I don't do the told you so that much. I mean, in reality, anybody knows me knows. I don't get on here and be like, hey, how you doing? Larry Krueger here. I told you Brock Purdy. Come on. 187. Larry dropping bomb. TC. Larry dropping BS. I'm just giving you my read on it. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying that's my read on it. I'm saying Lynch sounded like he was going to trade Trey at the combine. And then I told everybody that third quarterback would define this picture. And now we're getting a word that Sam Darnold's going to be that third quarterback. And now the question is this. Is Sam the number 3 guy behind Trey and Brock? Or is Sam the number 2 guy and Trey's going to get traded? I think it's the latter. Michael McCann. If Brock goes down week 6, it's over with Darnold. Yeah, I don't feel great about it either. I really don't. Bomber T, though, is back. Larry knows. Bomber T, I just need to keep you on speed dial. Just anywhere I'm at. And now let's go to Bomber T. Larry's right. Thank you. LZ, crazy how we traded 3 first-round picks for a good guy. Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. It's like, I think the Niners drafted Trey on traits. They loved who he was, his makeup as a person, and they loved his traits. But then I don't think they really realized that they were going to have to really coach him up, and they were going to have to give him time. And then the injuries hit, and then, they got further down their road. Now there's a little bit more pressure to win that Super Bowl. Now they're all about winning that Super Bowl. And it's like, we don't got time to hold anybody's hand. We don't got time to give away half a season, on a really talented quarterback who's probably the best talent we have at quarterback, but we don't have time to invest because, there's a lot of heat on us. And that's the one part of this we don't know, guys. We don't know. I think that Shanahan and Lynch should be able to kind of write their ticket, but I get the sense from just being around the organization and being around that there's this inherent incredible pressure from the ownership to get it done. So that's my sense of it. I haven't been able to talk to Dr. John or talk to Jed. They're publicly going to tell you they support their coach and their GM to the hilt. But just because they say something publicly, forget what people say. Listen to what they're saying and what they do. Eric says, should the Niners pursue Joey Bosa? Yeah, if they got rid of the cap, I'd love to see Joey Bosa. Could you imagine if you had Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, and Javon Hargrave? Watch the fuck out. I mean, that would be incredible. I'd love to see it. I would absolutely love to see it. Todd says, Nicholas, you're right. Trey needs to be happy and move on to a team that can give him a chance to resurrect his career. How about this one? G. Martinez. Maybe CMC vouched for Darnold. Or he actually says CMC did vouch for Darnold, but I think he's throwing it out there as possibility. J. Mike says, what if Darnold's signing means they don't want to rush Brock back? It could be. Could be too. I could be misreading this. Always account for Larry could be fucking wrong. Because there's always a possibility. Hendrick says, Larry says all these things about what Trey will become and wants to trade that quarterback. LOL. Yeah, I do. Only because I know you and I know the Niners. And when I say you, I don't mean Hendricks. I know you. I mean, I know us. I know us as a fan base. We're impatient. And there is no fan base. There's no Niner fan base that I've seen that's going to allow for 2 500 type seasons as the bumps in the road. And with a young quarterback that needs development. So I guess I've said a bunch of great things about Trey because I kind of think of Trey the same way I thought of Alex Smith in 2005. I thought Alex Smith was a great prospect on paper. Graduated with an econ degree in 2 years. I think he set the record at the time for the Wonderlic score. 6'4", 217 pounds, super athletic. He checked all the boxes. His uncle was John L. Williams, the former coach at Michigan State. So he had played great college football for Urban Meyer, great high school football for Helix High in San Diego. He had a great package of he was a great prospect on paper. Smart, tough. Football was important to him. He was dedicated. He wasn't a bad guy. He was all in. I see all those traits with Trey. But guess what? Alex Smith, when Jim Harbaugh showed up 8 years after he was drafted, that's what it took. It took like 8 years for Alex Smith to get it rolling. He never ultimately won a Super Bowl, but I think he would have or could have. But it took him a long time to develop. And I see the same thing with Trey. Great prospect, really smart, really athletic, really committed, great family, total pedigree, but it's going to take time. It's going to take time. And do the Niner fans have that time? Do the Niner fans have that patience? Does Shanahan seem like a guy who's got that kind of patience? Does Lynch seem like a guy who's got that kind of patience? So, now we got T ripping me. He says, Larry, you're being weird. Everybody keeps saying when now this team has a bunch of high-level losers. Stop with the BS, Larry, and give the dude a proper chance. And if he's not it, then move on, period. All right. T, I'm sorry you're upset. Don't be upset at me, bro. Don't hate the messenger because you don't like the message. Joey says, do you think Trey could have a Allen Hurts year 3 moment this year? Well, there's no question. He's getting better. He's getting better. Josh Allen is like the only guy that we can really point to who went from completing like 50% of his passes to, one of the elite guys. But you got to give Brian Dable a little bit of credit for developing him. Do the Niners have the coaching staff to develop Trey? I don't know. I'd like to think that I know Trey's going to improve. I just don't know if it will be on the Niners timeline or fast enough to satisfy them. Darren St. Pierre, love you, Krueg. Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate everybody. JM617, Darnold's better than Josh. Mark says, Larry, if this is true, I'll give you all the credit in the world, but it's not true. All right. All right. Oh, wait a second. Bomber T says Larry's dead on. Don't forget that. All right. Check me out with Grant Cohn later today. Also later tonight, I believe on the channel, Damon Bruce, who's starting his own YouTube channel. He's going to be on. Warriors go tonight. I think I'd like to come on in the post game. It's going to be one of these all-dayers. It's going to be an all-day deal. Mark says Brock Purdy's the franchise quarterback. So Mark says Sam Darnold looks like Barney Rubble. Now we're ripping Sam Darnold. Krug Show says 14 more likes. Let's hit 200. Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, we hit over the weekend in Scottsdale 15,000 subs. So I just want to thank all of you guys because I've been doing this for exactly a year. And we're at 15,000 subs. And because today's a big football day and we got lots of people in the room. We got almost 600 people in the room right now hanging out. If you've yet to like and subscribe, please do. If you hit like, it just helps the algorithm and more people find our shows, which helps us. And then if, of course, you hit subscribe, and just hit the notification bell. Every time we go live for a stream, like we hope to go live later today with Grant Cohn, you'll just get a little notification on your phone. Hey, Krug Show's going live, and then you can tune in. So it kind of just helps you find the shows. So if you haven't hit like and you haven't hit subscribe, please do. Also, you can be a channel member for like $4.99 a month, and we give our channel members special content and interviews ahead of time. Mike Ruthless says, drafting Trey was the dumbest move in the NFL draft history. And he said that from day one. I don't know. I understood. I think they were looking at Mahomes. I think they were looking at Mahomes and Allen and saying, you know what? We got to have somebody who's a big-time athlete who can be in that caliber of an athlete. And I think they viewed Trey as that. And then they thought, you know what? If we just get the best athlete and we put him in the best process and we sit him out for a year behind Jimmy, and then we put him out there in year 2, we'll get the best prospect, take him through the best developmental process, and that's our best chance to find a franchise quarterback. And I think that was their thinking. And I think that thinking is sound, but ultimately drafting that great quarterback, it's a lot, I think, more about feel than it is about, definitive, he does this and he runs that. So I think they might have maybe made some of their decision in a vacuum. Hey, we like this player. Now we'll put him through this process, and the combo of the two will win. But I think it's more involved than that. And now I think it's pretty clear after watching Trey that he's got talent and he's likable, but he needs to be refined, and it's going to take some time. And maybe they're willing to go through it, but my sense is they're not. And I've stated that many times, so I don't want to beat it down into an absolute beat it to the ground. But there you go. Ty Wagner. Larry, you're lazy. You're lazy, Larry. That's from the great Bill Urbanek, who told me when I worked 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. that I was lazy. That tells me, that's why I'm sitting here. People say, one of these Niner joker, people on YouTube. It was like, why would anybody be an ex-NFL scout? That's spoken from somebody who's teaching school and has never been an NFL scout. It's isolated. You got to be right a lot. You know, I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a normal life. So I chose kind of radio and going into the media thing. And I kind of regret it to some degree because I walked away from a personnel career. But if you really see it for what it is, then you know why people would choose to get out of the profession. Todd Labor, preach it, Larry. Get this one from Kurt the Chameleon. Preach, Krug, preach. Oh, God, I don't want to be a preacher. Vincent Flanagan. There is no tomorrow. Is that from Rocky 4? If he dies, he dies. There is no tomorrow. How much you guys want to bet that Nick Sirianni the night before the Super Bowl watched Survivor? What's that the song in that No Road Back or No Easy Way Out? No Easy Way Out. There's no easy way out. There's no shortcut home. Check it out. It was in Rocky 4. 49er faithful. Keeping Trey and Brock 2-quarterback system is the future NFL offense, just like 3-point line in the NBA. That's interesting. The old saying is if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. But what you're saying is it's a 2-quarterback deal going forward. You might be right. Nate said, and Larry thinks a first-round tight end brings a 6 Lombardi. LOL. I do. I really do. Now, obviously, it can't be in a vacuum. But, man, if you could add Michael Mayer to what the Niners have, you get in the red zone. You're a defensive coordinator in the red zone. Brock Purdy's throwing accurately and with anticipation. And you have in the pattern Kittle, Mayer, Ayuk, and Debo. And, I don't know, McCaffrey out of the backfield. Good luck. Good luck defending that. That's all I'd say. Devon F. Larry dropping more F-bombs than usual. Yeah. Now that I'm not on the radio, I can drop whatever I want. Who's going to fire me? Terradome. Krueg. Javon Hargrave. Yeah, baby. Terradome. Fist in the air for Javon Hargrave. Everybody on that D-line, remember this going forward, everybody on that D-line's got to be a pass rusher. This idea that it's kind of like in the NBA where you used to have guys who on the floor who couldn't shoot. Now no good team will ever put 2 guys on the floor at the same time that can't shoot. Why? Because it's too easy to defend. 5 guys can easily defend 3 guys. And if a guy can't shoot, you just sag off him. You don't believe me? Go ask Russell Westbrook. Go ask the Clippers right now. They're going 4-on-5 every time they put Westbrook on the floor because Westbrook can't throw it in the ocean. It's the same thing on the pass rush in the offensive line trying to block those pass rushers. If you put 4 guys in your front 4 and one of them's Jonathan Hankins, they're just gonna put a body in front of him, keep account of where he's at, but just really concentrate on blocking everybody else. If you're gonna put Javon Kinlaw and his 1.5 sacks out there, guess what? They're not gonna block Javon Kinlaw. They don't need to. They're gonna go help on Bosa. They're gonna go help on Eric Armstead. You know, you got to rush the passer. You got to rush the passer in the modern NFL, and you got to get it done with 4. And to me, and I mentioned this to Raj at the beginning of this live stream, go look at the history of the NFL in the last, 10 years, and go look at the best Niner teams in the last 25 years. They always had 2 guys on their front line that had to be comboed, who had to be double teamed. And the Niners didn't have that this year. They had Bosa, maybe to a lesser degree Armstead, but I mean, Kinlaw was just getting bounced around, and the Niners needed somebody else on their front line. Now, I was suggesting trading for Jeffrey Simmons, but there's just no way to do that. I mean, there's no way to pay him, and Simmons is just, they didn't have the picks, and I mentioned it to Barrows the other day, and he's like, yeah, they don't have the picks and they don't have the money, but other than that, it's a great fucking idea. It's like, but that's the kind of player they need. And the nice thing is Hargrave had 11 sacks at defensive tackle. So he's got to be comboed, but so does Bosa. And to some degree, so does Armstead. So I'll say this, if I were another defensive end, man, if I'm Leonard Floyd, I'd take $1 million less to sign with the Niners right now to be on this line opposite Nick Bosa than I would to go somewhere else. Eric L says, Larry has a right to his opinion. There you go. Bomber T says, Sam and Trey will compete. Maybe. Mr. NorCal, Lance is 1, Purdy's 2, and Darnold's 3. Week 1, if he's here. All right, that's going to do it for us. I'm going to go get a sandwich, maybe from Pig in a Pickle. Maybe I'll go into the garage and get some of my New York style Italian sausage and fry it up. Terradome, one more on him. He says, awesome pickup. You weaken your rival in the Eagles. You get the best defensive tackle in the game, at least pass rushing. That was a Steph Curry 3 from Lombard Street. Look at that, Terradome. I like that. Quoting the local streets. Ken Martin. Larry said the Niners not getting for Sam. Larry said Niners not getting for Sam Darnold. He's not good. Then see him signed as quarterback 1 or 2. I'm okay. Okay, let me separate this so I don't want to confuse this. I don't like Sam Darnold. I don't believe in Sam Darnold. I didn't like him at USC. I didn't like him in the draft. I didn't like him with the Jets. I don't really like him. I liked him only marginally more with Carolina. He hasn't been good. But Sam Darnold was a top 5 pick, and he's only 25. And he thinks himself as a number 1 starting quarterback, definitely a number 2. I don't think he's coming here to be the number 3 quarterback. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see that. I don't see that. So we'll see. I could be wrong. I've been wrong a lot. But then every now and then I go to Bomber T and he says, Larry's dead on. Love Bomber T. Dynamite Dave says, I'll take that bet, Larry. Gerardo Sanchez, Larry, who do you think will be 3 Niner quarterbacks? I'm going to go Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Tanner McKee from Stanford, Clayton Tune from Houston. That's what I think. I think those are the 3 guys. And I think they'll move Trey. That would be my guess. We get this one from Josh. Says Bomber T's just kissing up to Larry in here. Laugh my ass off. No, Bomber T's he's just one of our originals. We get this one from Tammy. Larry, your take is horrible on Trey. Oh, Tammy, I know. That's what I think we're looking at. That's what I think. I mean, just go back and listen to John Lynch. Trey's ready to play, and that's the challenge. Well, why is that a challenge? Brock's hurt. Trey's the only guy who's going to be there all camp, all preseason. From where I can tell, you got all of the mini camps in May, all of training camp in July, all of the preseason in August, and maybe the first 2 or 3 games of the regular season in September. So why is it a challenge? If Trey's ready to go, then why is it a challenge? It's only a challenge because what's implied there is that Trey's not ready to go, that Trey needs to play, but he's not ready to play, and that they don't trust him to play. I mean, if I'm reading that wrong, I'm reading it wrong, but that's my read. Tammy comes back. Larry, stop being wishy-washy. All right, that's going to do it. Should we finish on that high note? Larry, don't be wishy-washy, or should I hunt for one more? Man, the chat. I just got to thank you guys. The chat is just blowing up. 187. I love this topic. Niner guy for life. I agree with Larry on Trey needing to go. All right, here we go. I don't need everybody to agree with me. And I don't do this show or any show that I've ever done. I'm not running for office. I'm not trying to build a consensus. I'm just trying to be honest with you. And you know what? There's so many bullshitters out there that can't people just take my honesty as refreshing? I think of it as refreshing. Bomber T, been a fan of Larry's for years. Look at Bomber T. He says, been a fan of Larry's for years. My late grandfather used to listen to Larry. Your late grandfather? No, I love you, man. My great granddaddy used to listen to you. Dude, I'm 50. Anyway, LZ says, you're awesome. Bomber T, Larry's a top dog. Carol T, good to see from you. Good to see you in here, Carol. She says, that's why other teams' fans show up here. Telecom, 1981. Trey Lance is going to be traded with this Hargrave signing. Oh, wait a second. Somebody asked me about Sam Laporta. Ty Wagner. Have I watched any Sam Laporta? Yes. I bet Iowa 4 times this year. I love Sam Laporta. I love Riley Moss. Iowa's got some really good football players. That kid Merriweather, I think, is Kayvon Merriweather. He's pretty good too. But Sam Laporta, he ain't Kittle. I mean, let's not confuse things. He's not Kittle. He may not even be TJ Hawkinson, but he's a really dependable tight end. He's not Michael Mayer, but he's good. He's damn good. I like him a lot. You know, and if the Niners went Sam Laporta in round 3, 4, 5 in that range, love it. Love it. Terradome says Sam Darnold is better than Jimmy G. So there you go. Larry dropping truth. Carson says, does Hargrave unlock Eric Armstead? I don't know that. I think Eric Armstead's a damn good football player. I really do. I think Eric Armstead doesn't need to be unlocked. When you say unlocked, I think what you really mean is, will Hargrave lead to Eric Armstead's sack total going up? No doubt. No doubt he will. Carol T. Larry, look how your subs have grown so quickly. Congrats. Yeah, you know what? I can't do anything but thank all the people in the chat. We're at 15,000 on our way to 16,000. And we've picked up 5,000 in the last 2 months. But man, when I see Raj at 10, I'm thinking, hey, stop doing victory laps. Raj is right there, but Raj is the man. Raj is the man. And Raj has a huge audience on the IG. Gizmo says, if Lance starts next year, he would have to play like Zach Wilson to lose that job. How would they swap Purdy in when he's 100%? Lance would have to fail. Yeah, I mean, I think it really comes down to Gizmo. It comes down to points. It's not just wins. The Niners are scoring 35 a game under Brock. So if the Niners go 4-0 in September under Trey, but score 16 a game, I could see them going back to Brock. But you're right. If Trey steps in week 1 and they're scoring 30 a game and he looks great, he's probably not coming out, nor should he. You're doing it in the NFL at quarterback. You stay in. You stay in. 49er Josh says, let's fucking go, Krug. So pumped after our signings. I am too, man. When I saw Javon Hargrave, I did a 13-hour drive back from Scottsdale yesterday. I was laying down. When I saw Hargrave went to the Niners, I popped out of the bed, hit the shower, fired up the studio, and we're off and running. So it's going to be a big day on the channel for sure. Viking says, how many games has Trey had to prove it, Larry? How many starts? He said 4. 4 starts. Not even really 4. Let's be honest. He's really only had a couple starts. The first start, terrible game plan. They ran him way too much. It was just a bad plan. The Houston game was legit. Had a rough first half, had a great second half. The Bears game, he was decent in the first half. Not great, but decent. Missed some throws, made some throws. But then it was a monsoon in the second half, and the field was terrible in drainage, and it just became basically whoever had the lead when the rain came at Soldier that day was going to win. And then the next week he played 2 series. So he hasn't barely played at all. Barely played at all. Anybody who says they know definitively what he is right now, good or bad, is freaking high. He's barely played at all. And that's kind of why he would be intriguing to other teams as a trade option, because Trey Lance's talent, upside, and future, speculative. We can all speculate, but that's what it is. I don't know if I should put this one out there. Ty Wagner, or it could be a relation to Franz Wagner. Could be Ty Wagner, but no, I'll say Wagner. Ty Wagner says, Larry, I used to skip school and get stoned and watch you and Gary in the morning on weekdays. Ty, what are you doing these days? Was that a good move for you? Thanks for listening to me high all those years. Was I better high? Jesse Stapleton, Hargrave is 30, though. Yeah, he's ready to go, man. He's ready to go now. Hargrave's going to have 2-3 really good years. Love him as an interior rusher. And I really love taking him away from the Eagles. And that was just freaking awesome. Because it's the double. It's you get the win and they get the loss. You're better, they're worse. I've always loved this plan of attack. Go steal the best play. That's why I want Chauncey Gardner-Johnson so freaking bad. Go steal Chauncey Gardner-Johnson off the Eagles. We got this one from Maximiliano. Love this time for the show. It's the only time I can see it live from Argentina. Gets too late otherwise. Maximiliano, thanks for watching in Argentina. Got to get there. Matthew Wade, loved you on KMBR. Love you now, bud. Yeah, check me out. I fill in on 95.7 The Game. And, of course, I'm on here basically all day, every day. Well, that's not true, but I'm on here a lot. And the chat is just a lot. It's just endless amounts of chat. People suggesting Lamar. All right. I think we're getting down to the end here. I just want to make sure we don't leave anybody out at the very end, since I'm a little slow on the chat. I wish I was a little faster on the chat. Here we go. Delta Dave, longtime listener, often wrong, seldom in doubt. There you go. I used to sign off with that. I probably should still sign off with that. Often wrong, seldom in doubt. Val Ramos, good to see you. Larry, love the show. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Val. Val's been with us since the beginning. Great one, 765. Trey going to be the one to lead us to the 6th. You're wrong, Larry. Man, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. 49er Josh. And Krug is a lot closer to the game than most of the opinions in the chat, just saying. No, but here's the thing. I might be closer in that I get a chance to talk to the players, but I've got no pipeline to Lynch. I've got no pipeline to Shanahan or Parag. I disagree with this one. I would say many of you know as much or more about this team as I do. Max Thunder says, Larry, you're the best, but I still think you're wrong unless you're right. Val Ramos, Krug Show #1. Carlo P. Gotta love me some solo Larry. All right. Don't be ripping Bomber T. John B says, Bomber T, you're hopeless. No, Bomber T's a good man. Come on. Eric L says, Krug Show #1 on all of YouTube. I don't know, that Mr. Beast guy seems like he's doing pretty good. That guy seems like he's got a little momentum. He might be a little bit ahead of me. Anyway. But hey, thanks to Raj. Thanks to all of you guys. And let's see. Are we at the very bottom of the chat? We are. We have one last one. We'll finish with that. We love Bomber T. All right. I'm either going to appear on Grant's channel or he's going to appear on this channel. And so look for that coming up here very shortly. I'm going to visit with him as soon as this is over. But to the over 400 people still in the room, if you could hit like and subscribe, man, that would help me out. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing one of the Krug Show t-shirts. If you like a Krug Show t-shirt, just DM me. Tell me you want one. They're $25 plus shipping. So just tell me your address. I'll give you my Venmo. You can hit me up. I brought a bunch of them to spring training. We did sell a bunch, but we still have, 30, 40 shirts left. Size large, XL, 2XL, 3XL. So if you want a Krug Show t-shirt, just hit me up and I will make sure you get yourself a Krug Show t-shirt. Until next time, we're out. Have a great first day of free agency. Javon Hargrave to the Niners. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Careful, whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah.